Yeah, what's good, what's good, what's good? Welcome to Reflections of a DJ, the R.O.A.D podcast, presented by DJ City. I'm your host, DJ Crooked. We've got DJ Never.
Yo, what up?
We got DJ D Miles.
What's good, what's good?
We got Jamie the Great.
Yeah.
And this is like a special LA edition of the R.O.A.D podcast, and we're actually here at the Serato Studios in Los Angeles.
Yep.
And we got the homies here, Kutcorners.
What's
and
up?
Sonny James. Thanks for having us, guys.
No problem. Thank you guys.
What's good? So we're here in Serato. We've got bombarded with a bunch of questions from our listeners and stuff.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to know what your positions are, pause, you know, and what your titles are over here.
We starting out crazy.
Yeah, getting right to it.
Yeah.
So we do artist relations, which is an extension of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, pretty much do that on the West Coast. We also have an artist relations team on the East Coast. So
Right.
shout out to OP and D-Struck.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we got one in London with Blakey, who runs the studio out in Hackney Downs. And then we got Serato, as you guys probably know, is from New Zealand. So we got like a whole squad in New Zealand that are always at the office.
And is the East Coast in New York? Is it located in New York City?
Yep.
Okay,
Brooklyn.
cool. So like when you guys do artist relations and stuff, is the Serato Studios basically open to the public for any DJs, or how does this work? If anyone has any issues with their,
Can they come knock the door and
you
say,
know what I'm
hey,
saying?
son,
Like, is it
help me
open?
out
Like,
with
what do
this.
you got?
We strongly discourage randoms from rolling up and knocking on the door.
It seems like you get a special invitation to even walk in here.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much how we like to keep it. It's an invite-only situation.
Right,
It's very
uh-huh.
exclusive. So, people who at a certain level with their career, we welcome you guys.
So you get all like the high profile DJs who are like, basically, they're semi disgruntled, or they're having issues with their Serato, or what is it?
Well, we don't
Is it
really
beyond
do
that?
support so much. So we're more marketing. So we do
Because everyone that tells me about the Serato Studios, it's like, yo, just hit those dudes up and go over there and like talk to
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
how, that sounds too easy, but it's
I'm like, what are they, like
Yeah.
Mac geniuses and stuff? They just help
Yeah,
them?
It's a genius bar.
and Kutcorners can definitely speak to that for sure. Because we definitely get the panicky calls at all times of the night from all parts of the world.
all types of the night, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Days off, days on. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't
Really?
matter.
But in saying that, we do support for our top tier artists. We can't provide support for every artist in the world, obviously, but that's why we have different locations. We have New York for the East Coast. We have West Coast, which is Sonny and I, and obviously we have Europe with Blakey, and that's how we kind of divide it up. And in saying that, we don't allow everyone in here, but we do definitely do a lot of outreach. Like I'd say a big part of our job is to kind of identify people that are, really important in their communities and are developing a sound or a style and are, working with other really respected DJs, and we want to help everybody if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, dope. Okay, what are some of the biggest issues that you guys seem to continuously run through with certain DJs and stuff
For
like
your
that?
top tier.
You're talking about troubleshooting wise?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of it has to do with OS changes with Apple.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's extra security measures that they've put in place.
Firewall.
And as DJs, we tend to do a lot of things right before the gig. So we're not necessarily reading the messages that pop up. So sometimes we just click OK, get that off of the screen so I can get to DJing. But sometimes those messages are telling us to do something very specific. And so there's a lot of times where certain messages like that just get missed. And then, we need to just kind of walk people through it again.
Is it difficult to communicate with Apple when they have operate when they update their OS?
Yeah.
Is it kind of difficult to coordinate that? Do they notify you guys and
Well, let's put it this way: Apple is one of the biggest companies in the entire world, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They are hugely influential, and Serato is a very small fish in that pond. So we don't really have the same as you'd think. I think a lot of people have this kind of perspective that Serato as a company is this massive, big software company like Google or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's a small company from New Zealand. It's 150 employees, the whole worldwide. Its impact, especially for DJs, is substantial,
Massive, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a lot of people think that we can just be hit up our guys at Apple and be like, yo, man, you guys could have changed this and that, but it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
There's probably a million software developers that are doing the same thing, and unfortunately, it needs to be a priority for them. And that goes for the same for anything, really. I think that's going back to what you asked before. What are the common things? Is just there's a big misunderstanding with DJs or any kind of creative people and how computers work. And at the end of the day, like, we just got to try and figure out how to.
So you're saying
that.
pretty much when Apple makes changes, they don't consult with you guys about any of it. They just do their thing, and then they make you adjust to what they did.
Yeah,
essentially.
And their products, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but over the last like 10 years is kind of gone away from, I mean, I don't want to like shit on them or anything, but it seems like their focus has shifted from creatives and professionals to a consumer, like, you know, kid or, you know,
That's a good point.
mom who wants to use an iPad instead of using a computer or something.
Well, like one of the main issues, and I think people were blaming Serato, but it was actually the new MacBook Pros.
Don't touch
was that they the one with the touch bar.
Yeah.
They like got rid of the fan, right? So like during temperature, like you're during like, you know, extreme cold or extreme hot weather.
Yeah.
You know, it tends to slow down, and Serato either shuts down or the computer just shuts down.
That's got to be a significant issue for you guys in Vegas.
I had that
really bad,
experience.
yeah.
Like when I first bought my new MacBook 2 years ago, I was DJing at the pool, and then out of nowhere, my screen just froze up, and then it shut down.
Yeah, it's
no
a
good.
nightmare.
Yeah, but everyone kind of relate at the time. We thought it was Serato DJ Pro, right?
Yeah.
And then
Exactly,
we realized, it was like the new MacBooks.
Exactly,
There's no
yeah.
fan in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one of my homies, I think he was DJing like, I don't know, outside in the cold, and even the cold weather fucked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like those kind of misconceptions, you guys get calls like that all the time. And
Yeah.
then what would you suggest that people get? Because we've been telling all the DJs to get like the 2015 refurbished models, because to us those were like tanks.
Yeah,
those
they're
are like
great.
built like tanks.
They have
yeah.
USB ports on them. That's
That's
right there.
Multiple,
That's
actually.
significant. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another thing MacBook stopped doing, using the UBS port.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so that was like another thing that we, you know, and we're learning this shit in real time. Excuse me, can I swear?
Yeah, go ahead.
So and a lot of the support stuff that we deal with, we're learning as it happens too, you know. And a lot of the times, you know, like we'll buy one of those computers and we'll start using it, and we're like, oh shit, this is the thing, and then we have to figure out how to get around
Interesting.
it.
So
And
you're like anytime Apple updates anything, you're in the same boat as us.
Yeah.
You
Essentially,
basically-
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a misconception that we're like 6 months ahead of everybody else. But no, we just don't have that luxury.
Because you
so.
guys are kind of essentially the Apple for all DJs. You're the biggest company there is.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And it's kind of like they should know what the hell is happening. So
Yeah.
we think the same thing.
Definitely. I'd be curious to know like how much of a percentage of, you know, Apple's consumers are DJs at this point, because it doesn't really seem like a big priority for them.
Well, every time I go to like a Genius, or I have like actually there's a really dope in Las Vegas. There's a really dope local mom and pop kind of, I don't know, like
like
you know,
computer repair
his
shop.
own
repair.
Apple
There's a repair,
Genius.
Apple
Yeah.
Genius repair shop. But these guys they were like one of the first Apple Mac like repair shops
Dope.
in the Southwest, like in the history, in like
Like
the last
first
30
one.
years. Like, yeah, it's funny. Like he has a whole wall of every Apple Mac computer that ever came
From
out
the beginning
from
to
from
now.
like the first one.
Oh, dog,
he has
that's
all of
crazy.
them.
That's so dope.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, but he's telling me like I get so many DJs that come here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, he already tells me like his list of preferences was, look, get a 2015 or 2013 MacBook Pro.
Between that, yeah.
He's gonna get any of those, max those out. If you can't max it out, come over here. We'll max it out for you. He says, don't go past Sierra on the OS.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He said, and I think I was using Yosemite, and he's like, once you go past Sierra, you're gonna have issues with pretty much Serato and Serato DJ Pro and all of that. And those were his suggestions.
Is he a DJ?
No.
But he's just
He
worked
knows,
with so
but it
many
was weird.
DJs and so many issues. He said that the changes really happened in High Sierra, and obviously Mojave's just been fucking everybody up.
That's funny. I use Mojave. I've
Same.
had
Really?
zero problems. But I mean, in saying that, I've had zero problems. But I know the couple things that I would tell every DJ who has updated to Mojave do, which are allow the drivers to be installed. I'd say that you asked earlier, what are the things that people don't always ask us about?
Right.
Drivers, and then like security preferences. Like the drivers for the hardware is the thing that we're always telling people about. Like, you got to do this, you got to reinstall this, or you try this, and it always kind of comes down to that.
Yep.
I'd say that's like the top thing. And then the second thing is like with Mojave is just you've got to allow the thing to be installed, and a lot of people don't know that because it's a new thing.
Right.
But since then, and I understand probably why he said that about Sierra, is because that became a thing with High Sierra.
Right.
Before then, there was no blocking of drivers being installed. Apple didn't do that, but then they introduced that. So you can easily just click allow, and even if you don't, you can always go back to security and click allow, and it'll show you. You know, it tells you it's blocked it, but. You know,
so when you say as far as drivers being installed, you mean like the mixers itself?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people don't update those drivers or those like firmwares on like the mixers and the controllers, right?
I'll say this: the thing that happens the most is people will have an OS that they've been using, and then they'll get a new computer and that has a new OS, and instead of just starting fresh with the new computer, they'll carbon copy or migrate the whole old OS onto this new OS. And when that happens, they're taking old drivers, they're taking old photos, everything that's old that may not work with this new OS the same way, and it doesn't work the same way.
Yeah.
So then that's when they have the problems, really. If you buy a brand new MacBook, you throw Serato DJ on it, all the drivers are actually installed in Serato DJ, so if you plugged into a piece of hardware, it's going to install the right one. But if you've already got the old one, the wrong one on there, it's going to see it, and it's going to get confused. So that's kind of like a lot of the times when people call us up, hey, I got a new computer, I'll be like, don't take everything. Just take the music and the stuff that you really need for DJing and just put that on the computer. If that's what you're going to use the computer for, just put the music and the information that you really need, and then you won't have those problems.
Right. So something like using Time Machine to back up, and you buy a brand new machine and take everything. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Just be selective. Just literally like, you know, what happens is a lot of people, when they get the new MacBooks, you can't downgrade to an OS. You have to keep it like the new MacBooks were meant to run on the new OSs. So when you downgrade, that's why they're saying that's why the guy at the repair shop was basically saying if you're going to get a 2015, don't max out past Sierra or Yosemite, because that's when, you know, if you're going to go past that, you might as well get the new MacBooks, because those OSs are made for the new MacBooks pretty much. Yeah.
It's a good point, though. I mean, you know, I have a 2015 and I'm using Mojave and it's fine, but I understand what he's saying, you know, especially if you're using like one of those old CD drive MacBook, Pros or whatever. You know, after Yosemite, they really went to shit, you know, like they just couldn't handle all this other stuff that was going on. That'd be really slow. I had that myself. I had like one of those 15-inch ones with a CD drive, and I tried to like update it to Al Cap and everything, and it was just like, it was like a slug, man. It was so slow moving. Right. Yeah. So I just got rid of it. I was like, this is not worth it.
So one of the main issues that we have in Vegas, sorry if we're getting too technical.
No, it's good. This is perfect.
You know? One of the issues we have in Vegas is that Vegas is still using SL4 boxes and SL3 boxes. So a lot of a lot of DJs come in with their new MacBook, and then, you know, they've got Mojave, they're using Serato DJ Pro. From what I've heard, Serato DJ Pro is not built for Serato boxes. They're built for plug-in devices. So those are the things you want to use Serato DJ Pro. You want to put it into the Nexus 2, 900, the S9, or controllers and so on. But once you start plugging in like a Serato DJ Pro into like an SL4 box, there might be, it might be glitches, it might freeze up, it might just stop out of nowhere and so on.
I'd say that's probably more to do with, again, drivers. And especially Serato at DJ will work fine with an SL4 box, provided you've put the right driver on your computer and you've got a computer that works with that box. There's also firmware on that box, and the thing about those boxes, when they work great, but a lot of the times those boxes have kind of been like neglected. You know, like the club will buy one, they'll just leave it there. No one really knows what to do with it. And, you know, Sonny and I aren't going to travel up to every nightclub. We just can't do that.
And update the firmware on the actual SL4 box.
But you know, all that stuff, and then also the fact that we're kind of dealing with the drivers for those things before Al Cap were great, and then Al Capitan came around and kind of messed things up, and they're kind of due for a driver update. But again, you know, if you've got it working and it's working, it'll be working fine. But yeah, drivers you cannot use that box with the wrong drivers and expect you're going to get no problems. That's going to be a terrible situation.
Right.
And unfortunately, people just don't know about drivers. You know, at the end of the day, it just comes down to the fact that people aren't going to spend the time to go, have I got the right driver? Have I updated the firmware? You know, if they've got 5 minutes to go on, you know, after the guy before them. And I think that, I mean, if you wanted to, if you wanted to play it safe, you'd probably be better off to just plug right into a DJM 900 Nexus. You save so many wires and so many other things that can introduce a problem too.
Right.
That's essentially why Serato decided they wanted to make the club kit license package, was to eliminate the need to depend on that box for everything.
And there's a kind of rumor we had. You know who Conflict is? DJ Conflict.
Yeah.
So
Shout out Conflict.
Yeah. So my favorite DJ.
Yeah.
So he said he spoke to someone at Serato, and this is where he said that Serato DJ Pro or Serato DJ, when it first came out, it was designed literally. The main focus of that program was to have a sync button, just to have a sync, so that people could mix and sync. And the reason why they started that program, well, this is what he said. I'm telling you what he said.
I know, I've heard it before too.
You
I heard it on your podcast as well.
Yeah. So this is what he said, and he said the reason why they didn't just leave it on Scratch Live is they couldn't somehow,
implement the
program the sync correctly into the Scratch Live program. So they had to create a totally new program and build everything around that sync for Serato DJ Pro and Serato DJ. Is that true?
You mind if I take this one, Sonny?
Go right ahead.
It's a lot. I love Ray. You didn't even know.
Because if you heard that episode, he was mad confident. Like, he's like, I spoke to someone at Serato.
I spoke,
And
with a deep voice. And
He made it sound like he spoke to a guy named Serato.
No, but
the head of Serato.
That's probably more like it.
No, but I believe him. Like, when he said it with such confidence, I was like, I believe that. Like, I kind of believe what he's saying.
It sounds like something that would make sense, right?
Right.
Like
but they wouldn't want it to get to the public, so they're like,
it just when you have that kind of conviction, you can sell, freaking Bermuda shorts to an Eskimo.
Yeah.
Well, look. I'll be honest with you. I've spoken to Conflict many times.
Yeah.
And I like Conflict. He's a good dude.
That's a good way to start.
Yeah,
Something negative, something really negative to come after. But
No. It's not like that. I think there's a bit of a miscommunication there, and I think that ultimately he's got a bit of the story, but it's not quite the full story.
Okay.
So just to clarify that, and I don't want to I understand what he's saying, because there was definitely a part of the reason why Serato DJ exists to have sync in it.
Right.
People wanted sync in it. So there is definitely, that's not untrue, if I could say so. But it's not the one reason they made Serato DJ. The one reason they made Serato DJ, or Serato made Serato DJ, as a representative of the company who understands, Scratch Live was like the first thing that you ever made. And you made it in like your garage, which is literally how Scratch Live kind of came about. Was like it was made by a very small company at the time, and they grew very fast. Scratch Live was extremely successful for a very small company.
Right.
And as you guys could imagine, it would be like, building like a car in your backyard, and then all of a sudden we're in Formula One races with it.
Well, isn't it like a similar situation would be actually like the Phase, where those guys literally kind of just made something from scratch, right?
Yeah.
And then, I want to talk about that later with you guys too, but yeah. So
but you know what I'm saying? It's like you've built this thing in your backyard, and you didn't really think it was going to be like this, as successful as it was.
Right.
And as you've grown, there's lots of things that you should have done, but you don't know about those things until you got too far. And ultimately, at the end of the day, Scratch Live is great, still is great, was great, did a great job, but it wasn't well documented. It wasn't put together with the same care and responsibility that we've done with Serato DJ. So the idea is that with Scratch Live, we got to a point where we couldn't Serato couldn't really progress any further with it. It was just going to fall apart. Like, it became very unstable. And instead of continuing to try and build on an unstable foundation, they thought it would be better to start fresh. And that's exactly why they did Serato DJ. And Serato DJ has been documented, and initially when it came out, I know that a lot of people had some trouble with it. We all did, me too. I think everyone. I mean, that's essentially why I still work for Serato, was because there was some troubles with it initially. Right. And the whole point of that was that we were able to figure out what went wrong really fast and make the changes that were needed really quickly, and to get it to the point where it is now, which is technically speaking more stable than Scratch Live was. There's actually crash reporting in Serato DJ that tells us like data of how many crashes and problems that people are having. The one thing it doesn't detect right now, I don't know if I'm meant to tell people this, but is freezing. So that's the only thing that you get. But I doubt many people are having any crashes with Serato DJ, unless of course it's this other, like you were saying, like the heat, for example, that will shut down your computer. That's again not really a Serato problem. It needs a computer to function.
Problem.
Yeah. So there's definitely other factors that would cause a crash, but Serato as a program itself, Serato DJ is actually more stable than Scratch Live was, but it's taken a while to get there, and I think we're releasing 2.2 this month.
Yeah.
I probably should have said this is going to be out until a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, we're at 2.2 now. The last version of Scratch Live was 2.5, and that's when they were just like, that's it. This is the last version we can make before it all starts falling apart.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, to Conflict's defense, yes, sync was part of that discussion. Sync was something that a lot of our artists wanted. A lot of people that were like going to other software platforms were saying like, why would we use this program when it doesn't do this thing that this other program does? And we were like, we've got to be competitive, so we've got to put sync and other things that people want in there. And not to mention Serato Scratch Live was only worked with Rain products. It only worked with Rain. Could you imagine like if you could only use Rain, boxes and mixers with Serato to this day? Like,
right.
The reason why I think Serato is a company that still is influential and popular as it is to this day is because you can use it with Denon, you can use it with Pioneer, you can use it with all these other other programs. Yeah, Newmark. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that is a strength of the software, and if we didn't, if they didn't do that, then you may not even be using this shit today.
Yeah, for real.
Are you
go ahead, D.
Are you surprised at the slow turnover of DJs that went from Scratch Live to DJ Pro? Because it took me about 2 years to feel comfortable with using DJ Pro.
Yeah.
No, I'm not surprised at all. Because honestly, you're going to use what you're comfortable with, and a lot of people aren't trying to change their workflow when they might have to be in front of 1,000 or more people every week. Yeah. So I totally don't blame people for that.
Yeah.
Would you say like the first launch of Serato DJ was kind of a failure though? The initial first launch of Serato DJ was kind of a failure because it didn't, for some reason, everyone talked about it, everyone downloaded it, but then nobody used it.
Yeah.
And then it took Serato DJ Pro to really get everyone's attention, and it was kind of linking it to like some of the Pioneer, hardware and the equipment that really kind of sold it. You know what I mean?
I think that your perspective is totally different to ours. Or
for sure.
Mine for sure.
If it wasn't for the S9, I probably would still be on Scratch Live.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can totally appreciate that though, for sure.
I've heard that before, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, from like I remember from our perspective, everyone was like, Serato DJ. And this must have been, I don't know how many years ago. When did you guys first launch Serato DJ? Not
2012.
Pro. 2012.
With the SX, the DDJ Pioneer controller.
Yeah.
And then we were like, and then we started hearing some shit, and we were just like, nah, we ain't gonna fuck with it.
We heard it too.
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
I think that's what a lot of products that you kind of like you wait and you don't buy the first one, you kind of wait for the second update or whatever, and then everybody kind of jumps boat. I don't think necessarily it was called a fail, but it was just a slow.
That's a bold way to put it. That's like Obamacare is a massive failure. According to him, if you ask him, then he would say that. But I was in Philly and everybody was using Serato DJ from launch.
Yeah, I was
no
the
problems.
same way. I just jumped on it. I was like, all right, let's check this out, and I mean, of course, there's some like loose screws around, but it wasn't that bad. I do have a question though. You guys never really fixed having the Wi-Fi on the computer and using Serato at the same time. That's still one crash that I think everybody has.
There's the one bug that I think we can all publicly talk about is not that we can't talk about bugs, but the one that I think probably the most people will encounter with Wi-Fi is the mega latency bug.
Yeah.
That one is that's the worst thing we got, and Serato DJ right now, just straight up like.
That's the one I faced like 2 weeks ago, just trying to download a song on the fly, and it just crashed everything.
Well, mega latency is different than a crash, though. So
it crashed?
Okay, so a crash is when it closes unexpectedly and you get a white screen with a bunch of data on it. A freeze is when it just becomes unresponsive. Yeah. And mega latency is actually when you experience
delay.
a lag between
Yes.
your actual movement of the DVS
Yes.
and the program.
Oh, sorry, it wasn't. I called it crash. But yeah.
So we should be clear about this language only just because people listen and they go, oh, that's a crash. And then they go to support and they say they had a crash and they didn't. And it's hard for us to help them.
So
they
what'd you
make
get?
latency,
A latency or a
I got
crash?
latency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bug that's not exclusive to Serato either, unfortunately. But it's something, again, going back to what you were talking about. Can we just hit up Apple and be like, "Yo, fix this shit"?
Right.
It's one of those things where it's a combination of drivers, macOS, and Serato DJ. So we all have a role to play, and we all got to work on that together. So currently there is no solution other than don't use Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I guess your question was, are you guys going to fix that?
I mean,
We're definitely trying.
that should have been part of the.
How long has that been an issue?
I think since Scratch. I've seen it on Scratch a few times.
Really?
No, I have no issues with
Yeah.
Wi-Fi and Scratch Live.
Yeah, I was gonna say with Scratch Live, I could download
Back
the whole album.
Yeah,
and it would
exactly.
be completely fine.
To me,
It keeps spinning.
Yeah, to me, Scratch Live is like the most down ass bottom bitch ever in the game. Like, you know what I'm saying?
She'll
Like,
never let you down.
she'll never let me down.
put her through
let's
everything.
break that down though,
Yeah,
because
okay.
it's like Scratch Live. Yes, is great. Yosemite is the last OS that was super tight and
Right,
great.
yeah.
Right. That worked with Scratch Live. So you got a combination of Yosemite, Scratch Live,
And the 2015 MacBook.
yeah, or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like that's kind of like
It's the perfect way.
it was
I
definitely.
sound so old, like I don't care about new shit, but I usually love new
You
shit.
sound like the backpack.
No.
fan.
I'm just very cautious.
Lyrics
because-
matter.
Yeah, I'm not like that too because I love like technology. I love like new shit if
Yeah,
if
of
it
course.
helps. But the last thing I want to worry about is flying to Miami, going through a setup,
Yeah.
and just being like, oh shit, like is this updated? What's going on? And usually with Scratch Live, it's just like that down ass bitch that just looks out for you, and it always works.
Yeah.
It's always stable,
So
and
does
it's
it-
like
So does a flip phone, though.
huh?
So does a flip phone,
I mean,
though.
that's why. That's why I don't want to
you
say.
can't com- you
Legally,
can't
I can't
compare
say.
it, no,
Legally,
really,
I can't
no.
really say why the flip phones are still around. But
No.
we all know why they're still around.
No, you know what it actually reminds me of is that people kind of say that the iPhone is a little dated and like the Galaxy's got all this new shit and look at what the Galaxy can do. It takes better pictures. It does all of this calendar. And I'm just like, nah, like it doesn't have the durability that an Apple phone has to me,
Yeah.
than iPhone has to me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I just care about the durability. But like you're absolutely right. It took
Yeah.
me a while to go to an iPhone or a touchscreen phone when I had the BlackBerry.
Right.
Because that was so functional. It was
Oh, the BlackBerry
dependable.
was the
Yeah.
best.
And it took me to be like, all right, now the iPhone's working, and it's like now it's like ready for me to hop on.
Yeah.
But I feel like Serato DJ Pro is like almost there, but it's not really there. And I don't mean to shit on you guys because I'm not shitting on you guys. I just have a
I
very-
take no offense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't make the product. So.
Yeah.
And your perspective is yours, man. And
Yeah,
no one's
yeah,
gonna
sure.
take that from you. Ultimately, like I mean, we all have different experience with it. And I've definitely had bugs. I've had latency before, but at the end of the day, I've done many gigs since 2012 with Serato DJ. I had
Yeah.
zero problems.
Yeah.
And when I can say the same for Scratch Live, but I also had problems with Scratch Live. So
Same.
it wasn't completely like. I mean, our memory in retrospect can sometimes change the memory of it.
Right,
but I've
right.
definitely had problems with any computer and any software I've used. So, at the end of the day, I think, Scratch Live is great, and it was always super solid, and Serato DJ now, in my perspective, is super solid, and I use it
Okay.
all the time.
Do you still have people call asking you asking you to bring back Scratch Live or
yeah.
Just only about 10 times a day.
really?
Yeah.
Y'all should have kept Scratch, bro.
But
Yeah.
it just comes down to that, the fact that you just can't do that. And I mean, since we're talking about technical stuff and the future of things, like I was saying to Miles just earlier about the future of like OS systems, like Catalina's coming out. A lot of people like freaking out, like, "Whoa, shit, what's happening with Catalina? iTunes is gonna disappear, and oh my god, what's happening?" And there is some serious shit coming with that. And we do know about that at this point because I've gone to beta. And one of those things is they're going full 64-bit. And this might be really geeky shit, but Scratch Live's a 32-bit program, for example. So Scratch Live obviously won't work on it. But that means a lot of other programs that are also 32-bit won't work on this OS system. Yeah. So something to consider, before you download or upgrade your OS to Catalina is like, do I need anything that's a 32-bit program? I mean, shit, they still make Ableton in 32-bit. So you got to make sure
Wow.
there's lots of things. I mean, they also do 64-bit. Just Ableton, shout out. You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of programs that are based on a 32-bit ecosystem, and they do need to update to 64-bit, and that's what we were like really worried about. So we got on that stuff like a year ago. And that's why Serato DJ Pro, when we launched Serato DJ Pro, that was the thing. It's 64-bit. We're ready for the future. And so
Smart.
kind of, like, there's definitely a lot of consideration in what we do, especially since we know DJs are using it in a professional, like, in front of thousands of people. People like A-Track, people like Craze, Jeff, big dogs. We don't want to, like, screw them over. It's like their livelihood.
So would you suggest, like, as a disclaimer to all DJs, when there's a new OS update, to just kind of not be trigger happy and just wait?
Sure.
Yeah.
And just wait it out and see
And
what
read.
happens. Yeah,
Read
Yeah,
as
for
much
sure.
as you can before you pull that trigger.
Yeah, I used to be one of those guys like on the Apple beta list, and I just can't wait to see what this iOS is going to do on my phone, and then I always pay for it.
Yeah. You guys are really good though when the new iOS is getting updated or whatever. You guys always put up a picture on the Serato Instagram, like, yo, hold off, don't jump the ship.
Yeah, well,
You guys
we've
are
been
pretty well.
we've been intentional, and the marketing team and the social team, shout out to them back in HQ, has been very intentional about just educating people,
Yes.
because we read all the comments, we see people just being
Sorry if there's ever
disgruntled
been one of mine, because there's been times that I go off.
Nah, no apology needed. I mean,
I'll
I
take
know-
that apology. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Sorry,
For me,
I was like,
I get it. It's sometimes it's hard to read, but I get the frustration when it's the crowd's not going to go, oh, his computer must be fucking up. They're going to go, this dude is whack.
yes.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Get
So
outta
I get it.
here.
So I have a question. You mentioned that Catalina is it's going to launch the new OS for Mac, right?
Yeah.
Do you know when that's ready to go or no?
Were they saying September? Or
Usually
something?
September
Yeah.
is the launch.
When the new
September
iPhone
OS
comes
is-
out, usually.
So then they're deading iTunes altogether?
Well, so that
I've
that's a
heard
good
this
question.
rumor. I've heard this rumor
The-
because I still manage all my folders in iTunes.
Yeah.
Who still does that?
I do
still
as
do.
well.
We all do.
I do.
Everyone does it.
I
Yeah.
don't, but I
don't?
Yeah, I just try to eliminate.
I really admire the guys who have their own crates in
Yeah,
Serato
yeah,
because that
that's-
takes a lot of diligence.
That's something I did a long time ago, just
Yeah.
because I tried to eliminate like variables in between me and the crowd. So
Right.
it's the same thing with, like, I have the 2017 machine. I don't use dongles because, again, now I'm dependent upon this dongle to work on top of everything else that's going on.
They make a USB-C cable. Just use that. Right?
Just use it, yeah. So
What
I
is
say
this dongles? What is this?
It's still like the extenders that
so
you put on the computers.
there's a USB-C cord, the orange one right here.
Oh, this.
Yeah, that's a regular just USB-B to USB-C.
Yeah, like a
And
mini.
I,
like
and
a
I
mini
recommend
USB?
I recommend people use those instead of
And
using
this
dongles.
is a dongle.
Well, that's a
So
hub.
standard.
That's a USB hub.
I mean, it
It's the same thing.
So it's essentially the same thing,
Got it.
but yeah, a lot of folks still don't even know that they make those cords so that you don't have to use a dongle.
Shout out Tech Tools.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I don't know, can I say that? Sorry.
I was gonna say pause when I heard dongle, but I don't know.
No, it's a weird word,
It
but
sounded
yeah.
like a pause word.
Yeah.
So
But anyway, I say all that to say, as much as iTunes worked for me at a certain point, I just try to eliminate additional things that could fuck up on me.
I think what they're trying to get rid of, what I read somewhere, was the iTunes store, not the iTunes fully.
So this is my understanding. So I'm not a representative of Apple, but from what I've learned is it's like they're breaking up all these different parts that of iTunes that are part of it currently. So you got podcasts part of iTunes, you got movies part of iTunes,
Yeah.
you got TV shows part of iTunes, you got music part of iTunes, and you got iTunes Store. So I think what they're doing is they're just breaking up movies, podcasts. Your music will just be like music. So what we know at this point is that there are some changes and that we're working on fixing that so that when it does launch, it'll just work the same. You may have to press one button to like get it to read.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just working on that right now with the beta that we've got.
because honestly, like the concept of iTunes being an MP3 like database, right? Pretty
Yeah.
much what it was. I mean, that's completely dated right now. Everyone's streaming.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're the only dudes that really are using those MP3s. I would say on a regular basis, right?
Religiously, yes.
Yeah, because it had to do with uploading music and MP3s to iPods and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a question because we obviously have DJ City, who is our sponsor. Are you guys, excuse me, actively looking for new alternatives for actually streaming directly through Serato,
You
so
mean-
people can actually upload and
yeah. You mean like in the way we done Tidal and SoundCloud?
Yeah.
But like kind of more like a more DJ, like kind of more with extended mixes and so forth and so on. Having remixes and stuff.
With DJ City, I mean, we're partners with them. We love those guys. So same as you guys. You know what I mean? We work really closely with them. So I mean, there's nothing we can really talk about. But yeah, we definitely talk to them all the time.
Right.
And that is definitely a discussion that's happened. But
I was just trying to pull some information out.
We're trying to get some leaks.
No, because we've like theorized what Beat Source and this launch of Beat Source is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one of the theories that we were talking about was that Beat Source will be the first. I know you guys are working with Tidal and all these music streaming.
Yeah.
But like as a record pool, like a record pool streaming platform that has, songs from EDM, open format, hip hop, reggae, Afro beats, everything, and having it be DJ ready with extended mixes.
Yeah,
short edits and certain streaming directly
but I
to
think
Serato.
All that stuff ultimately doesn't even fall on us or even them. A lot of that's just like label licensing and
all that stuff.
Yeah, all that publishing shit. Like that's kind of out of the hands of like, especially us. We don't deal with the record labels or any of the songwriters or creators in that way. Yeah. That's definitely on DJ City and Beat Source.
So it's all the legal shit that's really slowing it all down. But do you think the technology is already ready?
It's being ready.
Yeah,
we've had streaming in Serato since Pulse Locker, which was at the time fucking dope. I used that shit all the time. Lots of people used that. It was super sick. Vice used it. J-Rock used it. We were loving it, man. I could store all my music offline and then go DJ shit. It was so dope.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I use the SoundCloud and the Tidal feature. I made like a playlist, like just in case I needed to log in on someone's computer and have all my bangers. You know what I mean? Just to have like a super like party starting playlist. And there's definitely a lot of features. But like you said, having like intros is definitely the dream. It's just you got to get those like Universal and Warner Bros, whatever, Sonny, all those guys are got to be like, okay, we're cool with this.
Intros and acapellas.
Like
actual acapellas.
Hell yeah.
Are insane.
We definitely need acapellas and instrumentals. I mean, that's core DJ shit, right?
I mean, I kind of get the idea why the labels are slow to respond to that shit, because then, you're just putting your intellectual property in somebody else's hands and going, hey, change it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have at it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're thinking of like the ones that are done well, but think about how much bullshit is out there in terms of edits.
It's a lot, of course.
Yeah.
Gotta have the good with the bad, I guess.
So I have another question that kind of, this was my main thing, and I think I would love this, would be that, let's say that we're streaming record pools directly from Beat Source or from DJ C or whoever, and I log into my Serato DJ Pro or whatever that's linked to the streaming platform. Mm-hmm. Never gets on, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to log on. And when he logs on, all of his crates show up and all of his music shows up. Is that even possible? Is that something that can happen?
I definitely think that's possible. I just don't know if like we can do that. Like depending on like you got to think about like, okay, if you're a DJ and then never wants to come on.
Is this like me asking you about like flying cars and shit?
Pretty much, man.
Yeah.
but like
sounds like you're very wishful right now.
But check it out.
Is there going to be a cure for like cancer and AIDS and stuff?
Yeah.
Serato got it under control.
We're working on it right now, actually.
Yeah.
Back in New Zealand at HQ.
Right.
The milking cowrie trees and kiwi birds to get the elixir.
How come you guys don't know this shit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why are we
guys
here?
are Serato.
Why are we here? This doesn't make any sense. No, but this is all stuff that you guys even talk about this shit, or like now,
or just
talk about it all. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, man. I mean, I can't talk about it, but I've seen some shit that stuff has been developed at Serato, and I'd be like, oh my god, that's gonna be the shit, and it never happens. You're like, oh shit, and it's for like a really good reason too, and you're like, I didn't even think of that reason, but it's like, fuck,
damn.
Like there are definitely solutions and ideas and things I've cooked up, and I've just been like, that's it, and then there's like, oh, but we can't do that thing because of this, and I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah. Sometimes when we have artists through. In fact, all the time when we have artists through, people go, you know what would be dope and super easy for you guys to do? And then they fire off some idea, and I'm like,
just fly a Tesla across the fucking country.
Sounds like a person with no experience in coding, but okay.
And that's the sad. That's the sad truth. That's really the sad.
That's
truth.
not a shot at you. I'm just saying.
You don't know coding.
That's just the sad truth, though.
Yeah,
is like coding and like all these other things. Like right now, we're working on updating Serato DJ to be able to do more and better, cooler shit.
Yeah.
But just the little things that we do have to do could affect like major things like your library or like the way things play and if we start fucking with that and we put it out, I mean we've already dealt with that, the worst case scenario, which was like kind of like the first iteration of Serato DJ where we launched a software that did have a couple things that we didn't detect early on, and we've learned from those mistakes big time, and I think that's why we always do really good like beta testing. Like I don't know if you guys know, but like Serato has a beta program. Yeah. So I think P probably been part of that, where we put out like an early version of the software for people to try at home and like get familiar with it, so that when we do release it, those folks have kind of like showed us what it should be doing, and we really make sure we do that properly, because if we don't and we don't get that feedback, then we put some shit out and it's whack and everyone hates us.
Is there a fixed group of DJs that you guys like kind of talk to for like what should we do? What is your suggestions? Like, was there anyone that actually helped like with the design and the functionalities of Serato DJ Pro before launch? You know what I mean?
AM, man. I mean, I think AM, A-Track, Jeff, all of those guys that, I mean, you look at AM and how influential he was in the launch of Scratch Live. Like, we wouldn't be here without people like him and Jeff and A-Track. Like, A-Track and AM and Jeff, I think those are the trifecta of people that were the most vocal and spread the gospel. I mean, A-Track, when we interviewed him here, he told us about, like, he went up with Scratch Live on tour with Kanye West for the first time, and everyone's like using these playback machines that were just like
instant replay.
Oh
man, forgot about that.
Yeah, and we were like, holy shit! And he's like, I was the first guy that were like saying that we shouldn't use this computer on stage, and he's like, no, it's solid, I'm gonna do it, and he like broke down a fucking barrier for us. Like, so massive shout out to A-Track, and then Jeff's the same way. Like, people were fully hating on him. Here's the fucking OG going out, putting his name on something, putting his name out on the road, using this software for the first time. I mean. Yeah. And AM, we got an AM mode because of AM.
Right.
Yeah.
And, to this day, like, we'll definitely talk with those artists, Z-Trip, and Z-Trip was really also another big advocate for us.
Yeah.
And he was one of the most vocal guys. We did this thing, every year we do this thing with Jeff called the Playlist Retreat, which is coming up in August. And one year, the first year I went there, Sonny was there as well, as an artist, actually.
Yeah.
And I had to present. And it was it was a trip, dude. It was like presenting to like your DJ heroes in a room in a small basement in Jeff's house, and they're like, "Okay, what you got?" And I'm just like, I gotta tell you guys all this shit about Serato,
and take the criticism in the boldest way possible.
Yeah, and
you from Serato, boo.
Right.
Well, Z is Z. I mean, I have a really good personal relationship with Z because I was there. I picked up Z when he was having the worst time with Serato DJ, and I really worked hard with him to try and like salvage that. He was like, I'm fuck this shit. It's like a bad relationship. You guys are just fucked up. And I heard that firsthand from him. And I was like, well, what do you need me to do? Do you want me to come and like help you get your new computer sorted? I flew down to San Diego, spent a weekend with him at his house, got him working. He's been loyal for that ever since. And when we went to that playlist retreat, I'm sitting in this room. You got DJ Scratch, Jeff, Questlove. You got the gods. You know what I mean? Like everybody who influenced me to do what I do. Yeah. And I was like, yo, just straight up, thank you guys for everything you do. Here, I'm gonna try and show you some shit that may be helpful to you. And they're all just like, oh shit, that's really dope. That was the best feeling. Except when Z-Trip was like, why the fuck don't you guys have a 2-deck offline player?
Right.
And I was like, this guy might be able to answer that question for you.
Yeah.
But wait, what was his issue? What did he want?
I have a New Zealand accent, so when I say 2-deck offline player, it might sound
offline player.
So it's like the practice mode, like when you
the practice mode.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because is that why you guys implemented that?
Exactly right.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Exactly
That helps a lot.
It does.
So big shout to
It was definitely his, like, he pushed that needle because he took that opportunity where we were all in a room and we had this, like, the founder, AJ of Serato, in the room and the product planners, and he was like, I'm going to take this opportunity to speak my mind, and he's definitely good at that. And he was like, this is the time to let everyone know how important this is to us, because he told me and I'd told everyone, but, it's very hard to pass that message with that same intention as he needed to the people that are going to make the change. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was like, this is the way it's going to be. We got to get this in here. Every Tractor has it. I'm on a plane. I'm going to a gig. I need to be able to put 2 songs together. Why the fuck can't I do that? Why do I have to plug in a box? And everyone was just like, yeah, you know what? You're right.
I used to have iTunes open and Serato at the same time and try to see if that would work.
That was the standard way to
practice.
That's
the really? I never used to run both of them at the same time.
Me either.
Yeah, I would do that. That was my practice mode. Like, does this work with this?
Oh, really? That's pretty smart, actually. That's not bad.
And if I can, little product plug is that now we even have it even more expanded, where it's not just mixing 2 songs together. You can DJ the whole fucking set right off your laptop
and record it and use effects and
use
your samples, all that without being plugged in.
Let me tell you how much I spent on my first Serato box because I couldn't plug in. Now you give it for free? Damn it, man.
It's not free. It's not free.
It's not free.
It's like $29.
It's damn near though. Yeah.
Wait, how much is it?
$29.
$29.
A month?
No, just once.
It's just
that's for
it's
that
an
feature,
expansion.
right?
It's called the
gotta
Play.
drive it. Yeah.
Right, it's called the Play expansion.
I spent $800 on the first Serato box.
Well, yeah, I mean, just
That's
still
not one.
$800?
That was probably $6 something plus tax and the insurance. The
Well, I thought
warranty.
Serato was like $400.
No, it was like 500, 550.
This
This
Okay.
was like an 09.
I can top all you guys. I bought it in Canada for $1,000.
There you go.
So which box? Not the SL1. SL1 you paid $800
Yeah,
for?
it was like 6 plus close to 800. I just remember pulling out 800 and giving it to the dude.
Somebody saw you coming.
You got vibe, man.
Well, Guitar Center.
They pocketed like 3 off of you.
That shit was selling
Yeah.
out though. Like you know, it was like I remember that those SL1 boxes. I had to wait like a week to get it because they were sold out. I went to the store and they were like, "No, we don't have it. We're waiting on another shipment." And
I even waited to be a holiday weekend just to see if the price would go down.
Oh shit.
Actually, I think I got a discount at Rock and Soul from Steve because no one was buying it, and I was like the only one.
oh wow,
Yeah,
Wow.
because I was one of the first dudes to hop on Serato, Scratch Live in New York
wow,
after I saw AM at Lotus,
sick.
and I was like, I need to get this. So I went, I bought a computer, and I got that, and it was only me, Eli Escobar, and Rock the Con, and Todd Malice who were on in New York at the time.
Wow.
It was only us 4.
That's crazy that you bought a computer. I did the same thing. But
too. Yeah.
I think it's so crazy. Like, I think that's a really good point. Is like a lot of DJs never owned a computer for, especially for DJing.
Yeah.
But never even. I had like a fucking desktop shit. And it was
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we all use like Pro Tools or Logic,
Yeah.
so we wanted a desktop, but
Right.
we never saw I always saw like a laptop or a MacBook as like office shit. Like
Right,
you
right,
want to be
right.
on a plane and like
Spreadsheets.
you
Yeah.
want to do
Exactly.
spreadsheets and
Yeah.
like all that shit.
Yeah.
And then it was the first time where we were like, and it was like the 12-inch, right? Pause. It was like the 12-inch MacBook.
Yep.
Yeah,
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 and then I was
it was
enjoying
it was
it.
called shit. What was it called? The 12-inch.
I have to.
Have you seen those now? They
It
look
wasn't
like
called a
iMac?
MacBook.
It was just a MacBook.
Power Mac? No.
PowerBook.
PowerBook is what it
yeah.
was called. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the PowerBook.
But I think that's a really good point, though, because, like, DJs, creative people, we didn't really have any interaction with computers until then.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I mean, if I could go out on a limb here, obviously this is the Serato thing, but, a lot of people don't really understand what computers do, how they work. And that, I'm not saying anyone should, but I'm saying if you're going to use a computer to DJ with, it's a really good idea to get a good understanding of how
Right.
those things work.
Yeah.
Because that will save you so much stress. Like even just where to put files and how files work. Like I didn't know a lot about that stuff until I got a computer to use to DJ.
Right.
But now that I know, like, if I put a file here and I move it, the computer's, maybe thinks
Located.
it's just, I got to relocate it or whatever. So
Yeah.
you got to understand shit like that. And it helps so much more. It's actually helped me a lot in my personal life as a person.
Yeah.
Being organized, like now I use things like Google Calendar and like Google Drive and shit like
Right,
that.
right.
I'm like so much more efficient at life because I know how to use a computer. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think when I first got, the PowerBook and then and Serato, I was like on a campaign telling everyone to switch over.
Wow.
Like I got you to switch over.
You did, yeah. Well, first time I saw someone use it was Stretch Armstrong.
Yeah.
Then I saw Samantha Vonson use it. And after I saw Samantha, I was like, yo, right. And she sounded good DJing on Serato. And I was like, I got to get this. And then Quick was like, yo, you definitely got to get it. Everyone in New York is getting it.
Yeah, and you have my library, like Sean
Exactly.
Perry. Like I got Sean Perry. I got like
Yeah.
mad DJs to get it, and no one ever had a laptop ever, and they were like,
No.
Yeah.
that was like, you know what I'm saying? Like no one knew how to use that shit.
For sure.
Yeah, I always
Yeah.
had just a desktop for like personal home use,
Exactly.
like college writing papers
Yeah.
and whatnot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The first time I saw Serato, you guys are familiar with War and Peace?
yeah, of
Yeah.
course. War and Peace.
He was
OG, man.
a resident at a club in Las Vegas, R.O.A.D, and he had it, and I was completely like in awe. And I was like, what is he doing? why is he using a laptop to DJ? And he was kind enough to let me come in the booth with him. He had a Toshiba because he's a PC guy.
Loyal PC guy.
Yeah. And he was
To
killing it.
to a fault.
I mean, he was doing doubles.
Yeah.
He was juggling, and I was just like, my mouth dropped. And I was
Hey.
like, I have to, pause.
Yeah.
Man, that guy is super technical with the computer too, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he's showing us shit. Like, I mean, that guy has definitely been part of like beta testing and stuff
Yeah.
for Serato.
Well,
He's always
when we
been
had
good.
him on, he said he was instrumental in you guys keeping the crates.
Yeah, I could see
Like
that.
the prepare window.
Yeah, they were gonna
Yeah.
get rid of the prepare window.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, you got to keep that." And they're like, "All right."
And
fine."
That would have been definitely way before my time, but
Yeah.
I totally believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he told us the first time, I think, when he was in Miami and somebody was using it, and he ran up and he like moved people out the way. And he said he spun it back. He's like, "I'm sold. I'm gonna get it." And stuff like that. He was told us on the podcast. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit."
Yeah, Warren Peace is a man. He's such a good, very technical guy who understands
Right,
this shit
yeah.
super well. He's a lovely dude, man.
Was
Shout
there
out Warren Peace.
was there a window for you guys that you guys wouldn't go out without records or without a certain pile of records?
Oh,
when you
definitely,
first got
yeah.
Serato.
Yeah.
Dude,
What,
I
and what was
still
that
carry 'em
window
right
for you
now.
guys? Because I feel like
I still carry.
Maybe a year, at least.
That long?
I was just paranoid.
I just
maybe a year.
keep 3 in the cut just because
For
of that.
me, it was like 2 months, and I was
Yeah.
like, "I'm good."
wow.
And then
Yeah.
it became from the records
Risk
to keeping
taker.
like a few like mixed CDs
Yeah,
in the bag just to have to
Yeah,
throw
yeah.
in
I
a
started carrying
CDJ.
mixed CDs. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
It took me like 3 months to finally use my Serato after I got it.
Oh wow.
And then I was still carrying a case of records with
Yeah.
me another 3 months. So probably 6 months. Yeah.
Word.
I was sold. I was like, "Yo, fuck this." I hated carrying crates.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm
In
similar
New
to
York?
you though. Like
Yeah.
I still bring records. I don't bring like a whole techniques
No,
bag, but I will bring like just some essentials at different tempos, just in
Yeah.
case the shit hits the fan and I need to.
hits the
funny-
fan,
the funny
and then
shit was
it's
the
just
truth,
to
man.
switch off, maybe because I think it's the easiest way to switch, but that's just me.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, back before the SL4, 3 and 4, you had to bring like a
switch
switch record, to
Yeah,
switch
yeah.
over. Yeah.
to go through. Yeah,
Exactly.
the throughs.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
still carry 3. I don't know why. It's just
I kind of
better
missed that.
than
That
me.
was kind of dope.
Yeah.
The
To
switch.
just kind of have a couple records with like a few
Yeah.
records with you, and
Yeah.
then to see what what was your like transition? What was your like switch records?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Be like,
Yeah.
yo, that's your switch record. Like,
Right,
what the
right,
fuck
right,
that-
right.
The switch record is just the filler.
Yeah.
It's not a hit. It's just that one
It had-
track.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it had to be like you could tell a motherfucker's taste. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
But yo, you remember when Def Jam put out the Serato record with the
Yeah.
regular record, so you
Yeah.
could switch over?
Yeah.
On,
Yeah.
the,
And
on
they
the
had,
other
like,
side,
on
one
the
side.
B-side.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it had
yeah.
the greatest hits like Slick Rick,
Yeah.
Children's Story.
Honestly, yeah,
what
compilations
else- exactly,
are the way
yeah.
to go for that.
That was
Yeah,
the shit.
I have
though.
one
yeah.
with like different shit.
And shout out to the R.O.A.D. They made these like actual transition records. They had like mega mixes of like 3 or 4 songs in a go, so you could have
Oh,
like
yeah,
different
yeah.
tempos.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I had one of those as one of my switchover records.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They made one of those like a control vinyl and then
no,
switch over.
it was just a vinyl that you could, a record that you could keep that had like it was like a mega mix. It had like
okay,
My
okay,
Boo,
okay.
Ghost Town DJs. That was like the 130 like Miami bass, and they had like a Just Wanna Love You Jay-Z 100 BPM section,
Right.
and then they had like a 70 like Ti What You Know About
Yeah,
It like
yeah.
section.
It sounds like the
Essentials.
Momo said.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of the R.O.A.D, you spun the R.O.A.D a few times, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Marvel and I. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love those guys.
You and Marvel have you. So you're from New Zealand, but you lived in Vancouver for a little bit.
Still do, yeah.
Yeah, you still live there.
Yeah.
And then you guys have like a crew out there.
Yeah.
You were part of the Freshest.
Still am part
Still,
of the
yeah,
Freshest,
you're part of the Freshest. And then Live Evil, right?
Yeah, that's Mike and I. DJ Marvel and I is like kind of production remix
Yeah,
project.
because you guys work with like Fool's Gold.
Yeah, well, we worked with Pilo. That was like our last single that we did. That was kind of Jay Worthy is another one that we worked with. But yeah, like rappers and remixes.
Pilo from the
really?
Bay,
Yeah,
right?
from the back.
Pilo from
Oh,
the Bay.
dope.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, that's just like
Same squad.
So what did you
yeah.
work with him on?
just a single. We did a single called "Throw It,"
Okay.
and it was like this is a couple years ago now. But we're big fans of like Bay Area music. Shout out Bay Area. Shout out Derek D. Struck. Shout out Jay Espinoza.
Yeah.
But Throw It is the name of the song. It's Pilo, and that kind of came through his manager David Ali, who's also Kalani's manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of what that is really.
Damn.
Yeah, we're
That's
still
dope.
making
Yeah.
beats.
You used to, and then are you still DJing as much, or does Serato like take up a lot of your time and stuff like that? You
Serato
know?
is like my main focus for
Yeah.
like like that's my day job, and that's what I spend like probably most of my thought on. But I still definitely do DJ. I have a radio show in Vancouver, and I still produce and put out records.
Mhm.
but yeah, it's definitely a shift of focus from being like a full-time. I was a full-time DJ. I was a full-time DJ / producer when I was part of the Freshest. We still do stuff, but you know, as I've got a little older, I just wanted to shift my priority. And you know, I think Sonny and I talk about this a lot because you know, Sonny is also a very accomplished producer, DJ. Yeah. And
I mean, you're like, your resume dates back to DJing for Bahama Deer.
Oh yeah, tour with
J Live.
J Live, Bragging Rights.
Yeah, for sure, Mr. Lift.
Can you clear up something for me about J Live?
Sure.
Was he the first DJ? Was he the first rapper to DJ for himself?
He was the first one I saw do it.
Yeah,
I can only speak for what I've seen.
I saw a little static between him and Skills. But it's like a little like playful static.
Yeah, they're grown men, so they're sorting it out. But
I
had a feeling that might happen when I saw Skills' video. I was like, oh boy. But here we go, two homies. But yeah, no, they sorted it out.
That J Live record, Bragging Rights, has to be one of the pinnacle underground New York records of all time.
Agreed.
Yeah,
it's so dope.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
that must have been a fun time though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's one of my favorite people to DJ for, just because he is a DJ, so he gets what's involved. You know, we build the set together in a way that like DJs would.
Yeah. And you're from Philly?
Indeed.
Okay. And then Ill Vibe Collective.
Yeah,
sorry,
it's all good.
And then you guys have probably one of the illest mixtapes, the best of the Native Tongues.
Oh shit! Yeah. We did that a while back.
You just sent that to me the other day, right?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah.
It's really dope. The beginning was dope.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
Sonny is super dope.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I did the first part, but
and I've always seen your mixtapes around. But I just didn't know it was like a part of you guys. Like Ill Collective, like the remix bound joints, the covers.
Were
just really recognizable at the time.
Dope. Right? Yeah. Shout out to my partner Panic. He's he was our visual director for years, so he basically did all the artwork and stuff for Ill Vibe.
And then so like you were just talking about, like at some point you guys were full-time DJs.
Yeah.
And then at what point do you guys transition and kind of like all right, well, I'm just gonna Serato needs me and there's these opportunities here. I gotta be an Avenger.
Yeah, basically.
Well, I'll tell you what it was for me, because I moved from Philly to LA about 3 years ago with no job, and at the time I was still full-time DJing, tour DJing every now and again, but for the most part just doing clubs. But I got tired of having cell phones shoved in my face every night, and bachelorettes barking orders at me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really want to be that guy every night. Once I moved to LA,
you don't enjoy that at all.
It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing in life. But yeah, to me, it was just about just trying to diversify my skill set and also monetize the skills that I've just learned over the years, because. You guys know, I mean, you can DJ well, but in order to like have a party, you got to know how to throw an event. You got to, sometimes you got to know how to do design. You got to know how to work social media. It's like all these things that you didn't sign up for when you started playing records.
Definitely,
man. Now you have to learn how to do those things at a kind of a high level and compete with people who just do that. Mm-hmm. So,
but props to those people, man.
For sure. Props the DIY shit is what made us in Philly, because you get tired of waiting on people and depending on, unreliable, sources for things. Yeah. So I'll just put it that way. But my thing when I moved here was I wanted to be able to monetize those things with a company I cared about. So
how was DJing? I mean, you've been DJing in Philly. So you moved to LA from Philly 3 years ago.
Yep.
So you've been DJing in Philly through the 2000s and early 2010s.
I started getting paid for DJing in 94.
You was also DJ in New York, right, as well?
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Rich Medina, Spinner, Bobito, everybody who gave me a shot.
It's dope. Yeah. To me, like, I think Philly is one. I mean, there's a bunch of cities that I'm not very, like, I don't know much about.
Yeah.
But I remember the Rub, they used to do road trips to Philly.
Yeah.
And, obviously because of Cosmo Baker at the time in the early 2000s, and I used to roll with them.
Yeah.
And I think it was we would go hang with like Nick Catch Dubs.
Yeah.
We would go. And then we would like check him out, and then but I always I didn't know what the Philly wave was all about. Like at that time, like I didn't know the club scene back then and what was popping back then. You know what I mean?
All hell is breaking loose outside, by the way.
Yeah, what's going on?
I was going to say, you want to
start talking about Philly.
We're supposed to be talking about Philly.
About the real essence of Philly.
Philly just started coming to
Philly heard us.
We'll let the dogs
all the motherfuckers heard us talking about Philly.
The dogs came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's crazy. Philly's wave is just soulful. You know, it's you know, it tends to be a cliche and overused term, but that's the best way I can describe it. Because even if you think about back to like the Philly International days, you know, Philly was instrumental in, you know, the disco era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of that funk soul. MFSB, yeah. Yeah, shout out to Pete Humphries, who was, you know, part of Sigma Sound and was instrumental on a lot of those records and how they sound.
McFadden and Whitehead.
Whitehead, yep. Yeah. I just when you think about that time, it's like Philly couldn't miss. And I think a lot of that kind of trickled down to the neo soul era. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of those artists they grew up on that sound. They were influenced by it, but they, you know, modernized it. Mm-hmm. And the Roots played obviously probably the biggest role in terms of like putting Philly on the map for the rest of the world. But as a DJ, sorry, you grow up with, you know, not only having, you know, a rich and diverse like musical palette, but it's also a very tough city to play because people are critics. They feel like they've heard it all. Yeah. They've seen it all. You know, they'll boo you. They don't give a shit, you know. And one of the things that I appreciate about being from Philly is just like we're straight shooters. You know, we're not going to sit here and just lie to your face, you know. So with that, when you perform, that's the energy that's coming. Yeah. You know, they don't care if you're Beyonce. They will boo you. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah. So what's the I'm always curious, like during the late 2000s, early 2010s, the EDM boom. What was going on in Philly during that time? I was so curious about that.
Well, you mean in terms of like, you know, Vegas and AC becoming like more of the centralized locations for parties?
No. I mean, like, what were y'all playing? Like, because everyone had to play EDM at some point or some type of LMFAO. Yeah. You know, I know what was going on in LA. I know what was going on in New York. I know what was going on in Miami. I know what was going on in Vegas, obviously, because I was there.
Right.
I was wondering what was going on in, like, you know, I had an idea about Chicago as well. Yeah. But Philly, I was always curious. And, you know, Philly has become notorious for just breeding amazing DJs. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely a little bit of that. There was a little bit of bottle service, and, you know, you have to cater to, you know, young girls going out to shake their butts and all that. So there's some of that, but I feel like for me, it's always been about just keeping it diverse, you know, because even if I am going to play like those records in a night, I'm still going to play Tribe records. I'm still going to play Biggie records, or, you know, or whatever the current rap is, or whatever. And I think that's what people expect in Philly. Like right now, we just call it open format. Mm-hmm. You know, when Wes and like Low Budget started Holotronics, it was like the mashup era. Right. But in Philly, it was just DJing. You know, all the mixtapes that I used to listen to when I was a kid was just people playing everything. I was getting snuck into the club when I was like 13. And it was, you know, you hear Big Daddy Kane records, you hear, you know, everything, whatever. Bahamadia records, and then you hear like, you know, Kerry Chandler records. It was just DJing to us.
Yeah. It's just hip hop, but yeah, it's like we always talk about this, that nightclubs they don't want to be called a hip hop club. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they have to label something, you know, open format. Yeah, they definitely, someone created that shit. I want to know who created that word.
Someone in marketing.
Yeah.
Probably. We didn't do that.
No.
I want to know where that fucking word, where that category, where the fuck that came from.
I know, for real.
To be honest, man.
How did you sound like you're ready to fuck that word up.
I just don't understand it. Like, when did it start popping up? Like 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
Open format?
I was hearing that way before that.
It's like 2006, 7.
I'm like 08, 07 was the earliest.
As soon as mashup, as mashup
like right after mashup,
It was right after mashup.
Yeah.
Really? I didn't really start hearing it till like EDM started going down, and then they were just like, "Yo, it's open format night."
Yeah.
It was before that.
When I first started hearing open format, it was usually applied to people who play things that don't go together.
Yeah.
And they don't go together for a reason.
I remember I heard it first.
Really?
I remember first time I've heard it was.
That sounds horrible the way you
described it. DJ
Here's my Duran Jay-Z mix. Okay, cool. I'm not going to your night, but cool.
See, that was like mashup to me. That was just like.
Nah, I heard a DJ. Someone was presenting something to DJ or in an interview or some shit, and they're like, open format DJ AM. And I was like, oh, that's the way his style is. He's not just hip hop. He's everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I always thought that open format was a DJ that had the ability to play all genres.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is.
Would literally mash them up in the middle of like a hip hop acapella over a rock beat, or just doing that's.
I'm blurring the lines a little bit, but you're right. You're 100% right.
what do you call it? Let's
How did you hook up with Bahamadia? If you don't mind me
through
asking?
Hezekiah. So I used to DJ for Hezekiah for years, and he worked a lot with Bahamadia. He worked with all the legends in Philly.
Yeah.
And I think at the time Bahamadia was working on a mixtape or something, and she was like, I need a DJ to do this right, because I think she had attempted it a couple times, and then he was like, oh, I got the dude for you. And I'm prepared. I'm like digging for vinyl days. I'm like digging for a party that we did regularly in Philly, and I got a call, and it's Hez, and he's like, "Yo, you busy?" And I'm like, "Kind of." And he's like, "Well, I'm about to put Bahamadia on the phone. Hold on." And I'm like, "Oh shit,"
Yeah.
because I had Collage when it came out, and I knew all the words to True Honey Buns and all
Yeah.
that. She was a hometown hero, so
Yeah.
to work with her was like a dream come true, and she's so seasoned in every way, and she's still just as good as she was in '95. So
Yeah, she's still touring, right?
yeah, she still tours. She tours with Eclipse, so shout out to Eclipse.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Shit.
Yeah,
Did you grow up around the same era that Diplo and
100%.
in the Philly?
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually, our crew, Ill Vibe, we used to do sound. We used to provide the sound for the Holotronics parties.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people in Philly who are familiar with us, and we're totally polar opposites in terms of what we do musically, because they were just turning up. Not that they were just turning up, but their priority was to just like create that college party vibe.
Yeah.
And for us, we more so like lean towards the Rich Medina side of things musically.
Yeah.
Like I want to get off records that you never heard. I want you to leave the club like, I don't know what that Fela shit was, but I'm with it now. And that was kind of our thing, but Holotronics was just like, let's just turn up. So a lot of people just didn't even know that we have any association with them whatsoever. But yeah, we're good. We were good friends.
Is there like a pressure coming out of Philly as a DJ?
There's pressure in Philly.
Okay.
Or do you mean when I go
Like
other
from
places and people
from
go,
your
this is a
peers,
Philly
like,
guy?
oh, you're a DJ from Philly? Like other DJs look at you like, oh shit.
There's an expectation. I don't know if it's pressure. I don't take it as pressure, but there's definitely an expectation that I'm going to be clean.
Yeah.
At least,
Kind of hard follow up, bro.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's I grew up watching like the cream of the crop DJs.
And of
Like,
course,
I was carrying Rich's crates and really getting the chance to study the people who are really doing it for real. So,
Nice.
to me, if you're going to do it, you got to try to do it as best as you can.
I got a question for Kutcorners.
Yeah.
You being from New Zealand, I always ask DJs from other countries how they get involved with hip hop and R&B. Being from New Zealand,
Well, yeah.
is that a big scene out there?
Yeah, well, yeah, there is definitely, and at least since I've been alive. But yeah, I mean the '80s and stuff. I'm an '80s baby. But how did I get involved with hip hop? Well, I mean, there's
Like, how's the hip hop scene in New Zealand?
it's healthy, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's probably one of the more well-known New Zealand. Well, actually, one of the biggest New Zealand rap songs ever was "Swing" by Savage. You guys know
Oh
that
yeah,
song?
yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Yeah.
You still play
shit.
that?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
that's from
dope.
New Zealand?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh,
Savage
shit.
is a New Zealand dude.
Oh, I didn't know that.
didn't
Wow.
know that.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
from
I thought
Atlanta.
he was a down south dude.
I thought he
he's
was
from
too.
Atlanta.
Real talk. That record still goes hard as
Yeah,
a bitch.
yeah.
in New
I
Zealand.
seen
Soulja
I saw it
Boy's
with my own
feature or
eyes.
some shit on that.
Yeah,
Oh
he
yeah,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He did.
I
He
thought
did.
that was Atlanta.
Me too.
No, he's from New Zealand, the other dirty South, I guess.
Right. South.
Dirty South.
But yeah, so
Are you proclaiming that right now? The
No,
other
no,
New
no.
Zealand, the other dirty
No, that's not
Other dirty South.
but yeah, actually, so there's a bunch of really well respected New Zealand rap artists, and New Zealand is it's an island country, and it has like a really strong like reggae vibe as well. And a lot of that comes down to the fact. I mean, there's actually Zane Lowe is another extremely famous New Zealander that was in a rap group.
Yeah.
So he's actually probably one of the bigger influences to me, because he used to be a TV host on a New Zealand music TV channel called Max TV, and it was a public TV music channel. And he was in a group called Urban Disturbance, and my dad and his dad knew each other. My dad's a radio DJ in New Zealand.
Oh, okay.
My dad actually made a rap song. I'm not gonna lie.
Are you serious?
Well, we just rapped over "Walk This Way." It was
So it was in your blood. It was in your upbringing.
It was
yo.
bound to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
yeah, a little bit, but yeah. So there was mainly people like him, and then of course skateboarding was like a really important part of, a suburban white kid from New Zealand discovering rap music through like 411 videos and Thrasher and all that stuff. So that was probably the main influence. Also, New Zealand has a really big Polynesian culture.
Okay, yeah.
And Polynesian culture, Maori people specifically, Maori are the native people of New Zealand. Their whole story is fascinating. And I think if you don't know about Maori culture, I really recommend reading it. And there's a really good book if you're into reading books, or maybe it's a podcast, and it's called The History of New Zealand by an author called Michael King.
Okay.
And it's a very, he's a white dude, so it's obviously going to have a certain perspective, but it's a pretty diplomatic look at like colonization of the country.
Oh, nice.
And it talks a lot about the history of Maori people in New Zealand. But I'm kind of diverging with that subject. But that culture is very receptive to reggae music and identifies a lot with people of color. So they have a very strong and musical culture, and like Bone Thugs are actually huge, massive in New Zealand.
Really?
Of course.
And they sell stadiums out and shit. And to this day, Mariah Carey's biggest number one song in New Zealand is Breakdown. Is the only song that it went number one and is in New Zealand.
With Bone Thugs, yeah. That's crazy.
So yeah, all that stuff kind of like I would have to be honest with, like, a lot of it came from the fact I lived in like the big metropolitan city of New Zealand, which is Auckland, which had a strong Polynesian culture, skateboard culture, and then my dad's radio stuff.
Oh, wow.
That's
But
amazing.
I think it's probably also important to mention, though, Nick McLaren, who's like the head of product for Serato in New Zealand. He's come to the States quite often. He's been on DJ City. You guys may have even met him or seen him, but he's a very accomplished producer, and he produced for an artist called David Dallas. They had a group called Frontline back in the day, and David Dallas is actually kind of a successful New Zealand rapper. He's on the head at records out in Duck Down and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. Like, I never heard an accent on Savage's swing record.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think a lot of people in New Zealand want to promote the accent. They want to kind of mimic.
He had like a bone crusher flow, yo.
He did.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, very
Atlanta
aggressive.
sounded exactly like, I was like, he's from Atlanta the whole time.
But that's the case with a lot of English artists too, right?
That- exactly.
Like, if you think about like Jamiroquai, I'm like, this dude is not from London. If you listen to him sing, I'm like, this dude's from Kentucky.
Kentucky. Oh,
I got to bring back for one more time for the for the new Dirty South.
Shout
the
out
new
New
Dirty
Zealand.
South. The other Dirty
The other
South.
Dirty South.
New Zealand.
Wow.
Was it a black dude or was it a white dude?
Polynesian dude.
Polynesian dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't. Wow. See, I
I
didn't
never
even know
knew
that. I thought it was a black dude.
I thought it was
this
Soul
whole time.
Brother.
Soul brother.
I thought it was Soulja Boy cousin or something.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I could go on about New Zealand hip hop, man. I mean, that stuff's foundational for sure.
Oh shit,
He
that's
looks
what he looked like.
He looks like Bone Crusher on the low.
Oh,
Really a low key, yeah.
I'm not mad at that, yo.
Yeah. I'd definitely say skateboarding, though, man. I think skateboarding, skateboarding is a kind of really important thing for, I guess, the generation, our generation. I think it really broke down a lot of things for people, because you could be into like Misfits or like, punk rock shit, and you could like that music, and you could also like, Beat Nuts or some shit, and it was all okay, because if you skateboarded, it was like the
It's kind of like that in the
equalizer.
States as well. Yeah, you
Yeah.
like punk rock, and then you also like hip hop. It's like
Yeah.
it's like the same thing, basically.
Yeah, and then what's cool is you've even seen like artists like Tyler the Creator. Like if you guys are fans of Tyler, is like his whole thing is like the skate thing. He's like the next generation of that. That whole mix mash of
Exactly.
culture.
I mean,
Yeah.
he was like the first rapper probably to really wear Supreme. And I want to, Dipset did it as well, but that dude hung out on Fairfax, and he still does to this day.
Yeah.
Like, you still see some of the Odd Future guys walking around Fairfax, but it's that skate mentality that just runs on down Fairfax.
He was definitely, I would say, one of the first West Coast rappers
Yeah,
to really
but,
rap for Supreme. Yeah.
Because I know Dipset, Raekwon.
Well, Dipset
Before
they didn't really wear Supreme. I think
But they were on the T-shirts.
They were
and
on a
all that.
T-shirt, but like Supreme was everywhere in New York.
Yeah.
Well, it's a New York
it-
brand, right?
Yeah. But it
LA.
wasn't as prevalent and it didn't get like as commercially like mainstream until like Tyler fucked with it.
Yeah.
Almost,
even-
I would say he was maybe one of the culprits who kind of borderline fucked it up. For a lot of New York motherfuckers see it that way.
Oh, dude, that's
that.
It's just kind of like how motherfuckers see like Lil Wayne fucked up Bape.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
But in saying that, actually, it's
Yeah.
funny you say that when you guys are talking about Tyler being like the first skate guy. Pharrell was like his first skate guy.
Well,
yeah.
Skateboard P.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
mean,
yeah.
skaters hated him though, right?
Well, I think
Yeah.
it was like he had a
Not
failed
quite.
shoe, right? Like he had the
He had the
ice cream.
Ice cream.
They fucking hated. I remember skaters hated when
Yeah,
when
they did.
I think
when he
that's-
was repping like skateboarding and
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
They
I've seen that a
fucking
lot.
hated that shit.
I've
Yeah.
seen that a lot.
Yeah.
I think certain core. I mean, Skater is a critical bunch, man. I mean, it's like DJs.
They were
Yeah,
shitting on him
yeah.
because they felt like he was representing
He was a
something that he knew
poser.
nothing about.
but he
Yeah.
skates.
Yeah, but to
I know,
them,
no, I
like
know,
even like with Lupe Fiasco
I
when
was
he
gonna
came
say
out
with
with
Kick Push.
Kick Push,
Yeah.
they were like, you know nothing about this culture. You're just making a song because it sounds cool.
Fake
Yeah.
poser.
Well,
Yeah.
I think Avril Lavigne probably got the most hate though out of everyone.
Yeah, she was wearing
Oh,
DC
yeah.
shoes
No, was he?
on her front cover. Right, everything is blurred out, just her in the DC shoes and her overall.
Oh my
Like,
god,
what are you doing?
marketing's so interesting.
When was the last time you did a rub party?
Oh, it was a while ago. But I mean, yeah, probably like 2000. Oh, shit, I can't even remember, man. I mean, like probably 2013 or something.
2013. That's
Yeah.
not that
That's
far
not that
away,
bad.
yeah.
But I got a big massive shout out to 11 and Airs, but especially 11, 11 and Cosmo. Happy birthday! It's Cosmo's birthday today.
Yeah,
Oh, is it?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday, Cosmo.
Cos.
But I gotta say, 11 was like he's been a really important person in my career. He actually was one of the people that was like when I was just DJing
Yeah.
and not really putting out music. He said to me, "Man, send me some music. I heard you did a couple remixes. They're good. Send me some like original music."
Mm-hmm.
And I sent him an original song, and honestly, like he gave me the confidence to put out like original music. And he put out a record on his record label, 11-inch Records. Put out my first 7-inch record, which is sold out. And I was just like, man, thank you so much, DJ 11, for like being some dude from you know New York or originally from the Bay, but you know looking out and just like on the strength, this hey, you should do more shit. You know, like
Yeah.
man, it's the best.
No, I mean 11.
It's funny
yeah.
because he pressed your first piece of work as well on vinyl as well.
Yeah, it was part of the motherfucking remix. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was the jam.
I did the 03 Bonnie and Clyde Arrested Development,
Oh, sick.
and then there was the part 2. I did like
I forgot what
Jay-Z, Hey Poppy with Aha, Take On
Yeah.
Me and stuff. But
Oh,
yeah,
dope.
I remember
but it
that.
was like
Wasn't that Pump It Up with Jimi Hendrix on that as well?
I did Pump It Up with Jimi Hendrix too.
Oh, that was dope, man.
That was the bad one. 2 out of 3 from the line, but yeah.
It's like Purple
Nah,
Haze,
that was a
right?
good one, man.
Nah,
Yeah.
that was
Purple
pretty
Haze
bad,
on
man.
Pump It
That
Up.
was dope, man. It was like
It's pretty bad.
doing the Rock mashup.
Nah,
It
nah,
worked.
was pretty bad. Yeah, but I mean, they were one of the first dudes on that mashup shit. And
Yeah.
then, but they're very actually instrumental in highlighting a lot of DJs.
Definitely.
And putting a lot of DJs. You don't really see that nowadays. It's happening more. I like how Scratch Bastard is really putting together his barbecue.
Hell
and,
yeah.
and mixing a good of the OGs and some of the new dudes and putting that all together. And actually, we actually had a meetup, a link up, DJ City link up in Vegas, and a lot of the younger dudes is like, yo, they don't have this culture of when we would all kind of meet up after our gigs and like hang out at a diner, talk shit about what happened that night. I feel like they don't have that culture. They don't have this these new DJs, the younger dudes, they don't have this community where they can just hang out with each other and talk and vent and work with each other and work together.
Yeah.
It's very much
Have lunch, dinners, whatever.
yeah, but it's very much like a solo effort. Everything
man.
that
Everybody's
they're
on
doing,
their own.
You know what I mean?
Just about.
Why do you think that is?
I have social media. I would assume that, I think they think the importance is put all the efforts in marketing on social media and not really having any actual
connections with people.
with people.
I
human
feel like there's a
connections.
lot of ego that other DJs might be put on that, or feeling higher ups than the regular DJ that, or for say if the social media comes about, maybe the 25,000 DJ that with the followers of 25,000 doesn't want to hang out with the dude with 2,000 followers.
Yeah,
So it's probably some ego of yo, he's not worthy enough.
yeah.
Now that social media comes into play with a lot of shit, that's what I think it is.
It's so
Everyone's
crazy,
out for
though.
themselves.
Elitism.
Everybody wants to be the star, and you're my competition, so why would I hang out with you at the diner?
But it just seems so ill-informed because social media doesn't reflect influence because,
Right.
just an example, DJ Dahi, who's one of my favorite producers,
Yeah.
he's made fucking biggest songs for Drake, Worst Behavior, he produced that. He made Money Trees with Kendrick. He
Yeah.
when I first started following him, I think he had 1,500 followers on Instagram, and he'd made those songs already. And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
But here's a guy who's obviously really making moves,
Yeah.
yet it doesn't reflect on social media. I
Yeah.
think that's a
Right.
total misconception about social media is that you have to have a high number to be an important person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally distorted.
The difference is that I feel like a lot of DJs feel like the social media presence is more important than the actual craft or the work behind the scenes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they become so good at marketing that they don't. By the time they like get to a point where they have to really know certain things about DJing or the craft or production, or even being able to like talk to people and get gigs that way, or like be around DJs and be able to talk to DJs, they don't know how to like function. They're very awkward, yo.
If you guys came up in a time like now where skills aren't your leading asset, would you spend less time on skills and more time on marketing?
Of course,
Really
yeah.
good question,
definitely,
man.
yeah.
Definitely.
Nah, I would still do skills. I still like
I think it's-
the work ethic of trying to perfect the scratch because you're really interested in that. I think the marketing, like this happened in LA before when I used to DJ out here. You have to, like we spoke about, you have to sell tickets in order to get the slot.
Facts.
The 30-minute slot or whatever. So now you have to take over the promoting side of it.
Yep.
And now that was like 2011. Then social media becomes this big boom. So now you got to be the marketer, the promoter, and the DJ. And it's like, fuck. It's just the one thing that I wanted to perfect, that to show off my skill and to be known for. But now I got to be, the model, the promoter, and the DJ, which fucking sucks. But that's how I see it. I'll still be going after the craft more so than the fucking marketing.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I think it's also a priority for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'll be honest. When I first started DJing, I didn't care about playing clubs. I just wanted to scratch over instrumentals.
Yeah.
And then it just happened to be I got gigs. And to this day, that if you wanted to circle right back to it, like why am I working at Serato, and like what was my thing? Is my priority to really. I realized as an adult, like what I really want out of music and what I do is I actually just want to make beats, and I want to be able to DJ music that I care about. And I know that that's not a financially viable option at most of the clubs in Vancouver or wherever I am most of the time. And I'm just going to take a job. So when I do that, I really maintain that love and passion for the craft of making beats or DJing or scratching, whatever it is. That's going to just, I'm going to be able to pour my heart into that. And that, I'll be able to do this job, and I'll be able to do this job really well, and it'll sound kind of complimentary, right? So it worked out well for me.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I know that if I have to do that gig at, I've done residencies, I've done that stuff, and I know when I get the phone in my face, this is not for me. This is not what I'm here for.
Right.
And I know that if I need to make money from it, then I have to compromise. So where does that compromise come in? Is it going to be my day job, or is it going to be my night or my life job?
Yeah.
Well, that's a great point to make, is that when you start, and I think a lot of what you're doing is kind of an older mentality, because we were like, look, we have to find a way to make money.
Totally.
And I think the young generation, they're really smart. They're kind of like, why am I going to waste my time working for somebody when I could just put my full-time energy on this one thing that I'm building up?
Yep.
But they don't realize is that they're still dependent on money. So they compromise a lot of their creative freedom and some of their ethics or whatever they're doing just to make that buck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where they would actually have, they could actually like protect their creativity a little bit more.
Yeah.
If they worked this other job that kind of freed them up with like the financial, gave them some financial stability, then they'd be like, oh, I can devote this to my, I can devote this freedom to this creative stuff.
A lot of that comes down to knowing your worth too, though, right?
Right.
We don't talk about that enough as DJs, I don't think. Knowing how much you should charge for a gig, and maybe missing a gig because maybe you need that money. Like that might be a thing for you, but it's like if you really. That's why it's good sometimes to have a day job. Maybe it's good to have another source of income. If you want, if you want to really control your career a certain way, maybe you can figure out how to manage that. It just depends on your priorities, though, right? And like, if you're going to take that lower paying gig just because you need that money, how's that going to affect when someone else comes to book you for that right?
Exactly.
And there's also transparency and desperation, right? So like. You're trying to mess with a club or a specific promoter. They can smell it on you if you're desperate for that opportunity.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll play you. So, yeah.
It's a hustle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because like it's actually affecting New York
I bet.
to the point where like the clubs are just being like, like $350 for the whole night, $300 for the whole night.
And it's a long night in New York.
Yeah, it's a long night in New York, but like
It's
these younger DJs are doing it because they're just like so hungry to do it.
They'll probably do it for less than that.
It's
It's
getting
lower,
lower and lower.
Yeah.
And they're not working with each other. You kind of got to like talk to each other a little bit. Like, yo, we're not doing this. We're not taking these gigs.
Yep.
And you kind of got to like talk to each other. I remember like back in New York, we knew like we wouldn't undercut somebody.
Right.
Because everyone would like look at you like, yo, that dude is like an undercutter.
Yeah, you're a sucker.
He's not one of us. Like, he's
Right.
trying to fuck up the game.
Yeah.
So everyone would have to play their position.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is everyone ate.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? Like, if everyone kind of plays their position, works together, like everyone still eats. There's enough money like to kind of go around, you know?
But you're talking in a time and a place where it was 50 DJs in New York. You know, maybe I'm being
Probably with less responsibilities than they have now. Too.
and you are putting your sweat, time, and effort into collecting records. Now it's a computer and fucking anybody can get the music
For sure, yeah.
quickly. So now it's more desperate times. Back then you can play okay guys, you guys sit in a round table at a diner. It's like, yo, you do this much, we do this much at this spot, that night makes this much. Everyone agree? Okay, cool. Break, whatever. But now it's like, well, fucking, you know, Jimmy from down the street just got a laptop and he got his DJ City account for $90 or whatever, and now he downloaded thousands of songs and he became a DJ in one fucking day.
I think it's funny you say that because even as DJs, we also need to recognize that like that's how bands looked at us. You know, like bands like that played like, you know, cover bands and stuff like that.
Musicians.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of like, it's funny because DJing is that. Like, no one wants to go see a band anymore. Like, what's up with that? You know what I mean? Like, I want to see that, but
I don't mind a band.
Yeah, I like that.
You gotta be tight though. I grew up watching the Roots, so you gotta be tight.
Yeah, but you know, like generally, there's also a change. I think I mean, this is just a speculation, but I think there has also been a kind of change in the behaviors of people going out. Some people want to go out, and they always will, and there'll always be an audience for that. But you know, like kids on social media, they have so many other options to do, and you can tell when shit's popping and where to go by just clicking on someone's feed right now. It's like, it's just a totally different game, man. Like,
Right.
And you know, back to the bands thing. You know, like, man, how do you think those guys feel? Like, no one's paying like $1,000 for a covers band to come to a gig anymore when they can hire a DJ for even half that.
Half of that.
Yeah.
I also think it had to do with like promoters becoming DJs.
Yeah,
You know, like
I mean, they
you know,
see the checks.
I remember
that
like a
being cut.
promoter was like, I'm a promoter. I need to like, you know, pair up with a good DJ.
Yep.
Like, yo, Sonny's dope. I got all the chicks. Let's work together.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the dude's like, yo, I want to be the star and the promoter.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So like, he's like, oh, I could just learn to DJ, and it wouldn't even matter if I could really mix. Like the crowd,
They're here to see me.
they're here to see me, and then
Anyway.
I become the promoter, center of attention. So then it just,
That's a great
you know.
point. I remember years ago I did a tour with Lyft, and I don't know, we were out for fucking forever. Like, it felt like a year and a half of just working this record. And and at one point during the tour, every single promoter that brought us was on stage at some point. And I was like, this is
Really?
fascinating. Yeah.
They were getting like their Diddy on, kind of, right?
Yeah.
All
in the videos,
dancing.
dancing. Come with Sonny.
Yeah, it blew my mind. I was like, damn, you're counting the money and performing. How does this work?
You're right about as far as having or knowing your worth, because even though, like Jamie said, there's probably 5 times as many DJs.
Yeah.
The clubs are still bringing in the same money.
Yeah.
And
Possibly
that's
more.
something that hasn't changed. So for us to take less, they're
Yeah.
still profiting the same, if not more.
Yeah.
Well, I think some clubs are doing the same amount of money, but I think some clubs are really hurting.
Yeah.
I think nightclubs are hurting. I think we've spoke about this many times, but I mean, you guys can tell me yes or no. Like, I think the concept of the nightclub and bottle service, the concept of it sounds so dated to me.
To
It
me
doesn't
too.
even sound like appetizing to like a young, early 20s person.
No,
What, like
no.
you want me to spend $600 for a bottle?
When my rent is 4 times what it was 5 years ago.
Right. And it's just kind of like, wait, so you want me to floss in front of a bunch of strangers when I got already 10,000 followers
Yeah.
and I'm already famous?
Right.
Yeah.
And I got chicks DMing me? Like, who am I trying to impress?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to do all
Fuck
that
you,
shit. Yeah.
$600 bottle. I'm gonna go buy followers.
It's just a different concept. So
Yeah.
like the concept of it has to really, they got to really update it all, because the only people we see, and let's be honest, the real people we see still spending money in Vegas are older motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know,
sugar daddies.
early
Sorry.
early 30s, late 20s, maybe. You know,
No,
even going to
count-
40s.
Count
you
my
know?
generation
Yeah.
out. We're not spending
Yeah.
shit on that.
I mean, y'all some broke
I've honestly
motherfuckers.
yeah, we
That's
are,
why.
bro.
I've honestly seen more people in their 40s clubbing
clubbing
than I have probably in the last 5 years.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
I just think that it maybe 10, 20 years ago, it was a stigma. Like, if you're still in the club in your 40s.
You're the old nigga in the club.
Yeah,
shit.
but I don't see that now.
Yeah.
I think I see men and women. I see it more.
Yeah,
and I think people maybe are enjoying the nightlife more in that age range than ever before.
because it's an older concept.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, hey, like we grew up with discos. Let's go to the nightclub. Like
Yeah.
it's, but these younger kids are like festivals, day
Day
parties,
pool
Yeah.
parties.
you know,
Warehouse.
house
Just gonna say
parties,
that.
you
Warehouse
know?
parties, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that too. Like I was talking to my friends the other day. They're like, we don't want to go out on a weekend night. You know, that fuck that. They want to go out for a brunch on a Sunday and hang out in the daytime. You know, have a DJ playing and be done by 9 p.m.
And get
That's
shit done.
responsible.
Yeah, and get there.
Yeah,
Maybe
be
get some-
responsible.
For
Sleep,
real though.
go home,
Go to sleep at
and
night
then go
at
to
a
work.
decent
Yeah.
hour.
But a lot of that is also, I think, economically. I mean, I don't know if we want to go down this rabbit hole, but like houses and rent and all this other shit. It's all
Right.
playing a factor, man, for sure. Because
Definitely.
you got to keep that 9 to 5 if that's your bread and butter. You can't be turning up fucked up to that. If your
Exactly,
rent's
man.
fucking $2,000 a week or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A minute. That's how it feels in LA.
You know what I mean?
It's not far off.
I mean, day parties are more prevalent to me than
Those are more
than
fun.
nightclubs
Yeah.
and stuff. Than,
Yeah.
it's definitely turn up at a day party and get home right on time. I mean, we went to Everyday People on Sunday. Shout out to Mo. We always mention his fucking party, but by the time we were done, we had time to go grocery shopping,
went to Whole Foods
set up
afterwards.
equipment.
That's so dope.
When normally in Vegas, honestly, man, Vegas, I think is really killing us as DJs because if we're in Vegas, we DJ till 3 a.m.
Yeah.
borderline 4 a.m. We all hit each other up y'all want to get some food.
Yeah.
Some homies are there. Yo, meet us at the strip club. Yo, getting home at 7 a.m. It's 8 a.m. sucks, bro.
Yeah, I don't miss it.
Yeah,
The next
It's
day,
the
the
worst
next
shit.
day is
Yeah, I
shot.
don't miss it.
Shout out
And
to Serato.
sleep until 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Sending his
Dog,
back is
for real, I have more.
sleep.
I have more structure now than I've had my whole life.
You kind of miss a little bit of it, though.
For
right?
sure, I've definitely missed certain elements.
Thrill
For
is
sure,
still
for sure.
But let me tell you about the sleep I'm getting.
I'd be bold-faced lying to say I don't miss some of the challenge
Yeah.
of just being in front of crowds every night because it does something for your brain to have to work that hard.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah,
It's fulfilling.
it is fulfilling, especially when you do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
That's the best feeling.
Right.
100%.
When you do it right and they hear a song that they didn't know they needed to listen and they hit you up.
That shit stays with you
That's
for
the high.
until the next gig when it doesn't go right.
Yes. Then you're just chasing that
Then
high.
you're like, I'm quitting this shit.
Yeah.
Considering your career decisions at that point.
Yep. 100%.
So you have the Serato Unscripted, which is basically the podcast.
It's the Serato Road podcast.
Yeah,
It's the Road Junior.
Yeah, it's crazy because when we first met Cut and we met him with Marvel, our PR.
Yeah, shout out to DJ
Yeah,
Marvel.
he done
No,
so much
we met
wonderful
him. We met you at NAM, right? Yeah, NAM.
Anaheim. Yeah,
Pizza Kitchen.
Yeah,
I remember because you
CPK.
had the neon orange beanie.
Yeah,
everybody
you guys
else
said
had
that. I heard it too.
Everybody had that.
I was wondering why she wasn't wearing it today, but
I
yeah,
think we were breaking someone's balls. Like, where's your neon orange beanie?
I
And
forgot
then
who
you popped
had
up, and I'm
one.
like, this.
Oh yeah, but when we met you, I was like, "Oh, you do the podcast for Serato?" He goes, "No." You said, "Oh, it's a podcast, guys." And I said, "Oh, well, you do a podcast as well." And then you're like, "Yeah, but y'all did it first."
It's true. We started doing that last year, just the end of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, October.
I think your first one was J Rock, right?
Yep.
It was.
Yeah,
Yep.
in
October last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a great a learning experience to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys do a really good job. You guys ask really good questions.
I don't know if we do a really good
Yeah,
job.
I'll tell you this:
Oh, man.
you have the listeners to show that you do a good job because people won't listen if
For sure, though, you guys, I listened to your stuff and I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what we need to talk about, stuff like this. And
Right.
And I think that we're definitely trying to bring our own vibe to it, but
That's
yeah,
great.
You got a great lineup. You got you got our wish list pretty much.
I know, right?
It's not me. It's
We
like
can't get any of those guys.
we got crazy after you, and we're like, "Oh, we're doing it."
We got them by luck.
yeah.
Yeah, they've got a shorter list, but it's
Yeah.
that list is hefty. It's a hefty
bro.
I
list.
would
Yeah,
trade
yeah.
you, Fat Man Scoop, for Jazzy Jeff. Right now. You can have him. You can Jazzy.
That's hilarious.
You had Jeff and Kenny Dope at the same
Yeah, we did.
episode.
yeah.
You
That
guys
was
had Craze, Just Blaze, Maceo.
Yep.
Macy was the
amazing.
last
Flostradamus.
episode you guys did, right?
Flostradamus.
Jay
Yeah.
Spinoza.
Espinoza.
What you want for Just Blaze, bro? Choose any guest. Cypher Sounds, he's yours.
How is that nerve-wracking for you to just prep for those interviews and for those episodes?
Because you seem so calm cut.
Oh, thanks, man. Honestly, like Sonny and I talk a lot about like what we're gonna do and what we should talk about. And then also, I mean, I am definitely sort of nervous, but I do know a lot of these. I've had a lot of like discussion with these people prior to this, so there's definitely like I've already kind of broke the ice with a lot of them. Like, Just Blaze, I could tell you about tech support shit I've done with him, like, and at South by Southwest when the first time I met him, we booked him for a party at South by Southwest. Like, Maceo, I mean, the same thing. I've done lots of tech support for him. I know his manager Sean really well. He's from Vancouver. A-Track, I mean, he A-Track is super important to me because like I came on to this role as a matter of fact, and he was like, it was kind of my directive to like show him Serato DJ, and at the time he was using Tractor, so I showed him Serato DJ, and then he started using Serato DJ, and I've just managed that whole relationship the whole time. But he's probably the one person I get the most nervous around still to this day. A-Track.
Really?
Yeah, just because he's fucking super cool, and he's definitely like when I first started DJing, he was like the person that I saw as a young person that thought he's that guy. Like probably like Jeff would probably be like that for you. Would you say, Sonny?
Yeah, Jeff, A-Track, J-Rock.
Yeah, A-Track was like a Canadian dude who was like my age, and I was in New Zealand, and my mom's Canadian, so that's why I live in Canada. That's why I've always claimed Canada. And I saw this dude, and I was like, shit, he's somebody I could be, and then so I've always followed his career. I know all his shit. So when I asked him his questions, like I was just asking him questions that I want to ask him for years, like tell me how you made Heads Will Roll, man, like tell me about this, and it was great, but still like there's a certain nervousness.
There's a lot to be said for the fact that we meet a lot of people under less than ideal circumstances.
Sure.
And they're going, yo, what is this shit that's happening? And then once you get past that, then you kind of have a different level of relatedness, so you're not so nervous when you with them.
Yeah.
But it's cool actually working with Sonny on this because like Sonny, we both have different backgrounds of like things that we know about.
Right.
Especially like, Sonny being from Philly and stuff. Like we were talking to Just about club music and stuff.
Jersey Club and all that.
Yeah. And we got to be really careful. I mean, when people watch a podcast that we do, like we're really conscious of the fact that as a company, like it's not just me. It's like I'm representing Serato.
Right. Yeah.
So if I say something that's incorrect, like people coming for us.
They're going to roast you. Yeah.
And they're not even just me.
Right.
It's also the company. Like, how could you fucking say this? It's incorrect.
Yeah.
And you're ruining the culture.
Right.
And so, like, Sonny and I will, like, go into depth. And Just Blaze was one of those ones where we were like, so is this the actual track? And you head up the Philly Cats?
Yeah, and I do this a lot because, like you said, we are a company and people, they expect us to get it right, but then there's certain people who expect us to get it wrong. Just from a company side, like these dudes aren't the culture. Like, you're from New Zealand. What the fuck do you know? That's kind of the attitude. You know what I mean? So with me, I have to go the extra mile to make sure that certain things are accurate. And so like for instance with the Just Blaze interview, I did a little bit of research. I'm from Philly. I was around during the whole like sort of migration from Baltimore club to Jersey club and how Philly like sort of adapted that, and even during like the Mad Decent early block parties and stuff like that, how they became a thing. So I called the Brick Bandits and the guys who knew what time it was, and that's not a slight to Just Blaze because he knows what he's talking about. And he's from Jersey, but him being Just Blaze doesn't now mean that I can lay back on my level of research because he has to know. It's like if I'm not sure, I'm going to do the research. Yeah, and people know I produced the thing, so it's like they're gonna be like, "Sonny, really let him just say that? That's crazy."
Yeah. Did you see? I don't know if you guys did watch the latest Maceo one, but there's this like one part where he's like breaking down the songs that he made, and like Sonny like went like he does a lot of work, but like with all the music stuff, like I don't do that. That's so Sonny, and he like finds the tracks, puts the image up, which like kind of adds another dimension to it.
Right.
And then on that one, you did this mega mix of like all the. He was like, as he's saying, he's like, I'd produce this joint, and you play the joint. And I produce this joint, he mixes in the joint, and it's like this extra level of cool DJ.
I haven't
shit.
seen that one, but I gotta check it out.
Now I gotta watch it.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. It's.
Look at
I don't
the
think
humbleness,
you're gonna be. I don't think you're gonna be
You can
blown
G yourself.
away.
Yeah, go ahead, bro. Talk that Philly shit.
Don't be humble, man.
I want to dial back your expectations.
Slight work. This is Tuesday.
But yeah, for me, it's like I know I want to stay engaged with it. So I'm thinking of it how we're all thinking about it. You know, we all come from the same mentality. So
I think what you guys put together is ideally what I wanted this podcast to be, a more concentrated, focus with the actual, guest or the DJ, and really just like. It just turned out that we had guests over, and then we would talk for like 2.5 hours, and it was like, we don't have the time to edit this all down and then coordinate the videos every week. Like, you guys know how much work this whole thing is. And I think, like, people always say, like, well, you guys are doing well. I'm like, I don't know if we have like a really good podcast. I just think we're consistent.
Yeah, but what you guys do is you guys bring a real authentic perspective of that. Like all my homies that listen to your shit, like all my homies listen to your shit.
Yeah, shout out to your homies, man.
Yeah, shout out Marvel, shout out Seko, shout out Rico, shout out Justin Sweeney, New Zealand. Like I know all these dudes that listen to your shit, and they're like, "Yo, man, you hear this?" And then they'll be like, "Yo, they said something about your beanie, and you gotta check that out." And I was like, "It's cool." It's like the fact that you guys have that conversation, and especially the stuff that you guys did around like the A-Track and Rockticon shit, and then like that was like super topical at the moment. You guys brought it together. Fat Man Scoop, all these like these are moments. You guys are kind of creating moments, talking about shit that's really important and that people are talking about. Kind of like what we were just talking about with iTunes. Like we have that technical side of shit, but you guys were talking about like I don't know how to describe it, but like you were kind of breaking down the situation and letting people have their perspective.
Right.
And that's really important. That's not kind of important. That's really important, I think.
I feel like you're achieving success with a podcast if the audience feels like they're flies on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they
flies on the wall yelling at us about everything we're getting wrong.
I don't know if you guys.
that means that they're engaged. If they're that passionate
There's
about
this
it.
I can't believe you said that. Like, why would you say that? I'm just like, I'm an idiot, and I have a microphone, and we're doing this every week, and you guys are listening. I really think it's the consistency.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if someone's giving out shitty bread every day. People are going to show up, and then they're going to take that shitty. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of shitting on myself a little too much.
Shut up.
But I mean,
please.
A shitty bread with some butter.
We're some good toast. We get tagged a lot of memes and stuff like that. There was one meme that kind of stood out.
We're not on memes.
No, we get tagged on
memes.
on memes. So there was this meme. I guess there's this box of a TV, and there's. And the picture is like two people are driving and laughing in a car. And then there's a kid next to the box looking at these two people and laughing. And someone said, this is how I feel like when I listen to the R.O.A.D podcast. And even though he's not there, he feels like he's part of the picture.
That's a big compliment.
And I was like, oh, shit. All right. Well, that's fucking cool. But a lot of people be like, yo, it feels like I'm hanging out with you guys and I know you guys.
Right.
So it's one of those... those compliments are like, okay, if you feel like that, we're doing something right. And I always heard that.
And to your point, man, like what you guys were saying earlier, where DJs don't hang out with each other in that same way.
Right.
It's like for people to kind of be honest and really show their true colors and be who they are and like take their guard down, that's really hard for people, especially when there's so much superficial shit on social media. So what you guys are doing is providing like really honest, like you're hanging out with the homies, especially if you're a DJ, you're hanging out with your DJ homies, you know? That's super dope.
Well, the one thing that I really, what I wanted to portray in this podcast with all of these dudes, with my friends and everything, is that we used to link up with DJs we didn't know. And we would instantly all get along.
100%.
Because at some point, it all came down to hip-hop, samples, soul.
It came to the music.
And it's like if you became a DJ, you had that love of music. And obviously, we would all disagree on, this is a banger, this sucked, or this was dope, or whatever.
But there's common ground.
Yeah, there was always a common ground. So, like, no matter what, even if you were a bad DJ, you still loved music.
You were just
and what was good music.
You were a part of that fraternity a little bit.
Yeah,
you know
for sure.
Yeah. And that's kind of like what the draw was. It's like you're in a fraternity. You kind of like all have the common interest, like Crooked said. And so even if I didn't know you, I kind of accept you because I know how hard you work to maybe get to this point
100%.
in your career.
And that's really important, is that even though this guy may seem like an asshole, I have to
point at me, man.
Nah, you.
You have to be like a politician and do your finger like this.
That guy maybe. No, I'm just kidding. Like that guy might be an asshole, right? But he's gotten to this level, and he's been able to walk into this room that we're all in.
Yeah.
So like, I gotta respect the fact that he's gotten to this level. I mean, now it might be a little bit different on how motherfuckers get to that, but there is still that to me. If you like, if I'm opening for somebody, or I'm DJing for somebody, I know like whether you're good or not or whatever, I'm gonna show you that respect because you've gotten into this room.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're in the same room
Yep.
and we're working together. So like, yo, like we're basically a team now. So like
Yeah.
I gotta make you look good, and if you can, make me look good.
Right.
And let's make this shit work.
Yeah.
And I think that's getting lost a little bit. It's just that, it's like it's either me and I shine, or I don't really give a fuck about what happens to you.
Yeah.
And they don't know that 30 to 80 other DJs, and it all gets around.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
It
And
does.
then all it takes is for you to talk to one other dude or 5 other dudes that said, I worked with him too, and he is an asshole. And then you get labeled the asshole, and then all of a sudden that dude who's labeled the asshole maybe needs some support from DJs. Yo, I got my new remix. Can you guys? No one's gonna play it.
Yeah.
No one's. And it's like, honestly, like we all know this. We obviously get gigs from social media and all these other things and contacts, but we get gigs from other DJs.
From our relationships.
Our relationships with
100%.
DJs. Co-signing from other DJs is like one of the main things, yo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think, anyway, back to this podcast, like what we're doing, like it's really important to me that mutual respect and just us like being able to sit down and talk about anything
Yeah.
music related is the great shit from a New Zealand perspective, Vancouver perspective, Philly perspective.
Yeah.
I think it just all comes together,
And for
I
real.
think there's a lot of commonality between DJs and comedians.
Yes.
Oh no,
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Cypher
Absolutely.
Sound says this shit all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Break
now
it down. I want to see your
Well, I mean, I
perspective on
can't do it as eloquently as him, but my thing is like it's you and an audience,
it. Mhm.
and if you're doing great, then you feel it immediately. If you're not doing great, then most of the time you feel it immediately.
Mhm.
And it just like you said, there's a fraternity. So anywhere you go globally, you meet that person that's a DJ. You know that you have some kind of common ground, and
Yeah.
I hear that a lot between comedians too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if they know they're in a room with another comedian, they automatically have respect for them because they know that grind,
Yeah.
and that's not an easy road to
Right.
conquer as
Right.
being
And-
a comedian.
And they understand the importance of like fresh ideas. Like,
Yeah.
ideas of ground that hasn't been covered yet. It's like when I go, me and Cuddy will go out and we'll hear like Scratch Bastard or Miles Medina or something.
Mhm.
And some of those ideas, I'm like, fuck, this crowd might not fully understand what's happening right now,
Right.
but
Yeah.
we get it. Like he worked to make that happen.
Right. Right.
Yes.
And it blows my mind, man.
And just like in the DJ world, for comedians, the cosign is important.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like Eddie Murphy had to get a cosign from like
Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor,
Right. And then Eddie
Chris
Cosine.
Rock
Rock.
had to get a cosign from Eddie
Yeah.
Murphy.
Eddie, right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that'll never change. I think.
Yeah.
Like for us, it's kind of like been a little fickle, but for like real
Yeah.
DJs and for what we do that cosign, like I wouldn't be shit if I didn't get a cosign from Neva and Crooked.
No, but I do agree that like when there is a party or an event, like I always wanted like a comedian.
Yeah.
They don't want to be a part of the party.
Right.
They want to be on the sideline,
Studying.
talking to other comedians, making fun of everybody at the fucking
Have
party.
you seen
Facts.
this guy?
Yeah.
And
Joe?
that's what DJs. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
When I go and you're like, I actually don't want to be. I mean, I like the comfort and safety of a DJ booth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I actually want to be off to the side, listening to the DJ, watching the reaction, looking at the lights,
Yeah.
complimenting. Yo, that was pretty good. Yo, that was pretty bad. Yo, why the fuck did he do that?
Yes.
Actually, that was kind of dope. Like going through that whole shit and critiquing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the most fun night. Getting some shots.
Yeah.
And all of that.
I've scaled back that a lot though, because
Yeah.
otherwise I'll just never enjoy my night.
I can't enjoy
I
my
feel like
night.
there's
Yeah,
few, I feel like there's few people.
judging off the top.
I feel like there's few people doing it at a level that's really gonna like stay with me when I leave. So when I go out to just some random bar or something, if I'm thinking that way, I'm gonna be miserable the whole time. I'm like,
See-
fuck this guy. Your blends are whack. No one cares about this record. I
That was-
used to do that all the
That was
time.
an
Yeah.
awful
Yeah.
Can
wordplay.
you wait? So you
Yeah.
actually train yourself to enjoy the night?
100%.
I'm jealous.
I'm not
I
there
could
yet.
do
Yeah.
that.
You're not there yet.
Nah.
Can you do that?
I can turn it off
Yeah,
a
for
little
sure.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like
We kind of have to because
Yeah.
we deal with so many different DJs with different styles and ideas of what works. That sometimes
I think the
doesn't.
best shit is when I'm like when you are enjoying yourself, but it usually requires me to be somewhat like tipsy or drunk,
Mm.
and I'll like be tipsy or drunk, and a great mix will come on, and I'll turn around, and another DJ will turn around at the same time.
Right.
We're like,
There's
"That
a lot
was-
of
that
that.
was kind of
Yeah,
dope.
there's a lot of that.
There's a lot of that.
We definitely do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
even no matter what, I could be like my boy could be talking to the baddest shorty in the building, and I could be like, talking business with somebody about like some like huge opportunity, and I'll just be like, yo, that was kind of dope. I'm sorry. Wait 1 second.
Right. It's definitely.
Hold that thought. Yeah. Okay.
I'll tell you this though. I'm more likely to react to something positive in the club than something negative, because a lot of the times the DJ is looking in my direction when they're doing shit, and if I don't have the poker face, then it looks like I'm just shitting on someone or hating on them. So I usually just try to keep the poker face.
Yeah.
Was it real gratifying?
I don't have a poker face.
Yeah. I'm not saying that my way is right, but for me, that's
your
what
way
works
is
for
right.
me.
My way is wrong.
Was it real gratifying for you to get A-Track to switch over from Tractor to
man.
Serato? Like, how'd that feel?
Well, okay, yeah, that was massive for sure. I mean, yeah, again, A-Track being like kind of the main inspiration for a long time was massive. It was huge, and at the time, like, it was kind of a new thing for me at the company. Mm-hmm. I was like, my first opportunity was actually at the Red Bull 3-Star in Toronto, and was like, I met Jeff, I met A-Track, I met Maceo, I met I knew Four Colors Act before that. But yeah, basically a bunch of those dudes were all there for that event, and yeah, it went off and it went really well. And he was like, yo, you guys did the things that I suggested you guys do. You finally got a good key lock in there. And it was like, awesome. Well, it's not really all me. I cannot claim credit for it either. At the end of the day, he has a good relationship with the company, and they listened and they did the things, and I just was kind of like the vehicle to get it to him. But the one thing that was really massive also recently was getting craze on Serato DJ.
That was cool. That was a dope video, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. And that was all him. That was his idea. He like, and again, I think, how you're saying, people will know if you're an asshole, if you're a shitty kind of person in the industry. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with what we do. And I'm blessed to be part of a really great team. We got Sonny, who's amazing. We got OP, who's amazing. Derek and Blakey, and Sean in New Zealand. Like, all our AR team are like really good dudes. They're all really good at DJing, and they've got their strengths, and they're like reliable people. And at the end of the day, that does so much more for the company, because when someone like Craze is like, why should I fuck with Serato? Why should I? Or what do they offer?
That was
It comes down to like, are we good people? Have we got your back? If you guys need us, do we pick up? And at the end of the day, we do. And to you guys' point, when Zach came on the podcast, Four Color Zach was on the podcast, and you guys were asking him about stuff, and he gave me props. He gave us props. He's like, I can just call him up, and you guys are like, really? You can just call him up? We're like, yeah. And he does, and he's done that not only for himself, he's done that for other people too. Like last weekend, he called me up. He's like, yo, my homie's having this issue. Are you free to like talk to him and sort it out? I was like, yeah, man, sure. I'm free. And he's like, let me just patch you in. Three-way called. I talked to the dude in Miami. He was like, I'm having an issue. It was just like something like he had to allow. I think it was the same thing. He had to allow the driver to be installed on Mojave, and he did, and it worked. And he was like so grateful, And it was like, no problem. It's like 5 minutes of my time. No problem. I got you. But that, for Zach to do that for his homie looks good for Zach. Looks good for us. Everyone wins. He gets to do his gig. He's stoked. Everyone wins. Like,
Yeah.
And I think that, like, ultimately, you look at companies that are going to be successful, and at the end of the day, you got to have people like good representation, good people that are going to be reliable. You don't say, I'm going to do this for you. You don't do it. You say you're going to do it, and you fucking do it. Yeah. And you do it the way you said you were going to do it. You don't like, that's the worst thing in any industry, is when someone's like, kind of like playing you, like leading you on, but not delivering.
Exactly. There's so much of that, especially in LA, right?
Well, I think everywhere. I mean, maybe more, just because there's more shit in LA.
Yeah, well, it's just lip service, And for us, like when we're talking to people, and they don't just have to be A-track level or whatever. When someone has an idea, like, we're immediately taking our phones out and being like, we got to communicate this back to headquarters, because that's how the product keeps improving. Mm-hmm. We give a shit about it, and that's the thing I think that's transparent to a lot of the artists that we deal with.
Yeah, because we are fucking fans of this shit. Like, when Craze is like, hey, I want to do a routine, we're like, yeah, you're going to make another New Slaves? Like, fuck yeah. We want to see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that, and we care about that. And, we'll reach out to the DJs that we loved and like to this day, like, shout out people like Jared Jackson. I'm on that guy saying, come to the studio, do a mix with us. Like, we want to see that. We want to see different things. We want to see the culture evolve as well. And we have a platform similar to what you guys do. You know, like when you guys asked, you know, when you guys were coming to LA and you were like, can we do this podcast thing? I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is a platform. I want to be on this platform. This is an honor.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about what we do with the studio when we have people come through. We want to create a platform where people are going to be able to pay attention to what we're doing and go, these guys are pushing the culture forward. And I think that what we've done with, you know, when I started, it was just like doing like little, you know, GoPro videos of people scratching for like 2 minutes or something. That started what we now have from the studio. We have, you know, these like 1 minute, you know, routines. We got 20-minute mixes called In the Mix. And then, you know, what developed into what our unscripted podcast is. But we're kind of creating a platform where we can kind of highlight the dope shit that's happening in DJ culture. So people can go, you know, what's cool about DJing, right? Why should you use turntables? Well, you can use turntables like fucking Jay Espinosa can, you know, or like, you know what I mean? Like who's cool and new and using, you know, whatever, you know, a controller or something. Well, this guy Shashu can use the controller like this. You could make fucking beats like live like this guy, you know, like we want to show you different approaches to like what you can do as a DJ. It's not just playing a song on another one, you know, you can do so much more than that, and it's because we're fans of that shit. We want to push that forward, you know.
Yeah, because we're fans, we tend to capture the nuance, you know, with certain things.
For sure.
You know, we know what features you're going to use, you know, based on like how you're mixing, and we try to capture that, just so not only you look good, but so that an audience can look at it and go, "Oh, damn, I never thought of doing it that way."
And inspire them to be
I bought
better.
this thing 3 years ago and never used it that way.
That's great. You know, it's like it's so important that you have the right people behind a company,
For
you know,
sure.
doing that, and it's creating like a community.
Yeah.
And it's also just opening the culture up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
really celebrating the culture in itself, and it's just beyond just like a DJ program.
Well, let me say this. Like Serato is just a DJ program, right?
Yeah.
The difference is what we've become as a company is we've allowed us to show what people can do with the software. The software is just a vehicle. The creativity comes from the DJs.
Yeah.
But that's what we care about. And I mean, like, dude, you can do probably the same shit with like all the other softwares. You know what I mean? Like, you can do really creative shit with any software. We just want to be the one that like says we see what you do, and we're gonna make it so you can do that better.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's all I care about is like really personally about this job is like making this shit fucking dope, you know, and inspiring, you know, our other artists too. Like when we get artists coming to the studio, we want to show them something that's gonna make them go, oh yeah, just like you said, I'm gonna leave Serato and I'm gonna go try that thing, maybe use that in my DJ set. And I've seen it happen. Like Day, you know, he uses the slicer shit. I showed him that. I mean, I'm not Day, but he took like this little idea that I gave him and he expanded on it and made it like this fucking amazing routine.
Yeah.
Jesus, man. You're passionate. I love the passion, bro.
Yeah, man.
I thought we were like having the Democratic debates in this motherfucker. I'll vote for you. You got my vote.
Kutcorners 2020.
Yeah, right. No, but I think it's dope, man, that Serato has passionate dudes like you guys, you know. Yo, behind the scenes and like really working everybody and then pause. You know?
I think that's what makes a big difference, and that is honestly what makes us pick up our phone even more so than just trying to keep our job. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to pick up your phone because I don't want you to fail in front of a whole bunch of people tonight.
Right.
You know the feeling.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes I'm feeding my daughter, or I'm at like a dinner with my girl at like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I got to walk away from the table.
Big 1 sec.
Yeah.
Another latency is happening.
Right. I want to know who abuses y'all the most on the hotline, the Serato hotline.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone.
Because listen, when I go through
come on, man. When you see his phone, you're like, oh, this motherfucker again, like this.
2 weeks in a row. At the same time, same day.
The way I look at it is, if that's happening a lot with the same person, then I'm not doing my job.
That's a good point, man.
They should be sorted by 3 calls. Like, why are you not sorted by now?
That's definitely like, you got to come to the studio, bro. We're gonna schedule an appointment for you. I'm gonna
This
get
is
you
the
tuned up.
genius part, bro.
Yeah.
I usually bug the shit out of Peter. Hey, why is this happening?
Thank you, P.
My Serato license guy that just unofficial. Just, hey, Peter, listen, we were FaceTime. Like, yo, what color did I connect this right?
But
shout out to the P's in the world, because there's like a lot of people that do that. Are like, just on the strength of being like down for the DJ community and like making sure people want to support themselves. It's a selfless thing to do. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, he's helped us a lot just give some of the information that he's done.
Shit,
and
he's helped us.
Especially with these things right here.
Yeah, with the phases. So speaking of the phases.
Yep.
I think I was having a conversation with MoMA, and there's what these guys did with phases is very similar to how Serato started out. Just a bunch of guys that created this whole thing, and I heard that there's been some issues with it working with Serato DJ Pro and some of the software issues and stuff. But I heard that you guys kind of opened the back end, and you're working with Phase, or is this thing?
I think yeah. I mean, unofficially, we can probably just say we're discussing things with them. We work pretty closely with them. But yeah, I mean, right now they're doing a lot of growing. Like they're their own company, and they're probably going through a lot of the same shit we went through.
Yep.
In the early days,
except for the fact that now social media is a monster.
Yeah, different world.
2012 was different. 2004 was way different.
But yeah, like I mean, they were asking us, like how do we deal with our artists? Like what do they do? What do we do? And we have a dialogue with them about that. And we definitely want to support them. They make a product that like works really well with what we do. And again, kind of going back to like they're keeping like turntablism like really at the forefront. Yeah,
right.
And like allowing people to use turntables in a way that they want to without all the other shit that goes along with it.
Is it a little surprising to you guys to see? I feel like in the past 2-3 years, there's been a resurgence of turntablism coming back.
That's great.
When I think it was almost dead and gone. It was like borderline almost dead and gone.
Yeah.
And then because it was like EDM, CDJs, controllers.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there was a resurgence, and then Techniques is like the MK7s are coming out, and then Phases is coming out, and it's like and it's like, oh shit, this shit's coming back a little bit. You're seeing more younger people fucking with vinyl.
Yeah.
And fucking with like, turntables more than CDJs. And I was like, oh, like this is like coming back a little bit. Like
for me, it's not surprising because in Philly, I felt like most of the DJs there never jumped ship from turntables.
Mm-hmm.
So every night, that's pretty much what I was seeing, and obviously what I was doing too. But I think there's a lot to be said for social media's impact. There's so many ill dudes and women who are, creating content around turntables.
Right.
In a way that we haven't seen that before. Before you had to have Scratch Con on tape, or you had to, Thud Rumble, Turntable TV, and like those were the things that inspired so many of us of our generation. But now you've got that shit on steroids. There's like everywhere you look on IG or YouTube or whatever, there's people getting busy. So I understand the impact of that shit 100%.
Also like people like Craze and A-Track and like really being intentional about their turntablism and doing stuff like that, making sure they're highlighting it. I mean, because I know A-Track uses CDJs at a convenience from time to time, and so does Craze, so does everyone. Wants to if they have to. They don't want to, but they will.
They will, yeah.
And who can blame them? But at the end of the day, it's like having that intention of like, this is important to me, and you can tell, man, like someone like A-Track, he's flying the flag for that shit, like he's doing Goldie Awards.
Right.
He's not like fucking around when it comes to that, and I really appreciate that. I think that helps say, hey, look, this is a really awesome thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You can do it, and it's cool now as well. Like you were saying, Phase is kind of a solution. And even Newmark put out this new mixer recently, the Scratch. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it's $500 mixer that has like It's like basically a TTM 57 SL, but like $500. No. And it's like, man, that's dope because you could if you're short on cash, you can get that, and you can get a pair, maybe buy a pair of used turntables, and it's kind of like where we were when we started. Cause
right.
I mean, shit, man. I mean, I spent $500 on turntables, one turntable.
Yeah.
In fucking 1998 or whatever, and that was like a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of money back then.
Gas prices were 93 cents, bro.
Man, don't I miss that shit?
You were mentioning A-Track. He's such a great dude, such a nice dude, and you were mentioning that episode with Roticon.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel? That kind of their stances, the two different stances or perspectives on what they were doing.
Yeah, I was kind of going to ask you guys the same thing because, like, I mean, there was a lot about like representation of DJs, right?
Right.
Yes.
And not against, but within a club like union kind of world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and he was I kind of you have to refresh my memory because Rockcon was like, he was quite opposed to open format What was it again?
Well, I think it was the fact that A-Track.
Oh, he said A-Track had no opinion.
Well, no, like, yeah. Well, he said A-Track went on Twitter, right? And he basically said that he was kind of like, defending and saying that, there was a plight for the working DJ. Mm-hmm. There's these things going on, and, we've got to do something to kind of come together and help the working DJ. And Rocticon was kind of saying, well, why are you speaking for the working DJ? You're not a representation of working DJ
at the current moment, for sure.
Well, he thinks since day one.
Yeah, I strongly disagree with that guy. Yeah. And I mean, I got nothing to lose. That guy dissed me on the holler board back, and I got no love for that guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he can come at me, whatever. But I got nothing to lose.
But to further explain Rocticon's point of view is that, A-Track came from a child prodigy, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did the
DMC,
fucking hard run with the rub. I don't think a lot of people talk about that. That, when he was reinventing like what he was, he went on the road with the rub and he cut his teeth with them doing that shit. And I saw that shit. He came to Vancouver. He was a working DJ. Yeah. It wasn't just.
But that's still not. Like in a sense of what a working DJ would be, which would be like getting a residency, building a following in your city, and kind of going up the grades from $150 open, $150 to $200 to building yourself up, and then really being seasoned into working a club, and not really just showcasing skills to
to me that sounds like the argument that Drake's not real because he wasn't broke. It's like he can still have a perspective.
Yeah, I think also
definitely.
I think that's the best, the most what you're saying is true. Is he not only does he have a perspective, he's entitled to that perspective. He's also doing a great service by bringing it to the attention of other people that may not have thought of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he's not going to be rapping about the streets.
No, we're talking about
difference. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's plenty of people rapping about the streets that aren't about that life, for real.
Exactly. But I think for him to be on that stage and to maybe say something about the streets and coming up in the streets and how we need to all stick together, someone really from the streets might check him. And I think
fair argument.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what the platform was with that argument.
And I think Rocticon was like, all the shit you saying is dope, about the working DJ and shit, that's cool, but you're also 10 years late.
Sure. And
you didn't abandon us, but you were part of the EDM movement, and that was
kind of jump ship.
And you kind of you went on there, you were doing great stuff, you were doing festivals and everything, but you weren't worried about the working DJ at that point. So I kind of see.
But what would that look like? Let's say he was worried about the work.
Let's say that's what it would look like.
Yeah.
Okay, and what is that? What is that?
When he would put on Fashion, when he put on Scene, when he would put on Spider, all the working DJs he represented. So if my budget goes up, your budget goes up as well.
You're talking about the Dexstar days.
Yeah. The Dexstar days.
But that's again different because A-Track didn't come up and with in that same way.
You're right.
But I guess I understand what he's saying. I recognize what Rocticon's saying. He's just not that articulate with it. I think the way he said things probably just pissed off people.
He's very brash.
Yeah. And that's his style. I know that. So, and I don't think he really cares. But
I think in the end, I talked to Rock about this, and he admits, he's like, yeah, I said it. I'm an asshole. He said
that's
the
thing,
admits,
right?
Yeah.
Like you said, what you guys do here is an extension of what you guys are doing for this voice, for this perspective, your perspective from Las Vegas, from the working DJ. You guys are giving people like me a platform to say some shit and have a perspective, and that's thank you. You know what I mean?
No. I mean, I guess thank you guys for being here. But I have a question in a very cynical perspective. Is if I was a megastar DJ, and for me to want to help younger DJs and so on like that, would that be a part of marketing as well? Sure. Even though, and then. Could it be with social media? I wouldn't have to really do anything. Like we said, it becomes like pandering. It becomes like a politician thing. And I think I'm not saying Jazzy Jeff and A-Track do that. By no means. Craze or any of these guys. But when you get to a certain level, it's kind of like, what can you do for me? Even Kanye West, his circle of people, everyone's eating off of him.
For sure.
And he's eating off of them somehow.
Right.
He's getting inspiration from them.
Right.
So it's like you're using young people to stay relevant, but you're also giving them some opportunities as well.
Well, yeah.
So there's this like give and take
It
a
should
little
be a
bit.
give and
Yeah.
take, yeah.
It's a little bit of a give and take, but I also think that for social media, I think it's like I can't shit on these young kids because, you know, it's like it's a bad look. I'm gonna look like an old
You're gonna look like a
hater
hater.
and shit
Yeah.
like that. So I'm gonna do this
Like a
like
bitter-
fake supportive
bitter old
shit
man.
but I really don't give a fuck about any of these people.
Well,
Or
yeah,
like,
no,
you know,
no one's forcing anyone to give a fuck.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, if you don't want to give a fuck, just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Just don't spread negativity, man. We got plenty of that. We don't need more of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally agree. Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
It's like I don't know, man. It's like what like my mom said. You know, if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all. Just keep it
Yeah.
to yourself, man. Like if you think you can do better, just do better.
right.
Don't fucking
exactly.
don't take someone down.
That's how I try to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, fuck that, man. That's terrible.
I'm trying to think what I try.
It's
to
just
do.
better usage of your time too.
Yeah,
Than
exactly.
it just being
Yeah.
negative. And what you put out there comes back. So
Yeah, if you think someone's trash at DJing,
Yeah.
practice more.
yeah,
So
I
we're
remember watching. I don't know if you guys saw this, but years ago, Pharrell's first appearance on the Wake Up Show, and Sway was like, "So when you turn on the radio, most of the shit that's on the radio is you, but are there songs in between your songs that you hear that you feel is garbage?" And he's like, "Listen, just like I could sit here and diss everybody else, the whole world could diss me. So what's the point of even spending my time doing that?" Like,
Great response.
and that was ill. Like, I mean, maybe it was a little political, but whatever it was dope to me.
Yeah.
It's true.
I think like without going more political, it's just like everyone needs to be a little bit more receptive and understand that everyone has a unique perspective, and sometimes you may not agree with it,
Yeah.
Right.
but it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know? And I think like the more, politics is exactly that. It's like sometimes if you're trying to figure out why someone would do something, try and figure out why. Like if someone's voting for somebody that you don't agree with, maybe it's because of some shit's happening in their town, and the other person that represents the side that you agree with did some bad shit. And you just don't know that.
Yeah.
It's really hard to know other people's life experience and life and perspective. And it's the same, and you know, like just like we were saying earlier with Serato DJ shit, it's like, you know, your perspective of Serato DJ being a unstable product is totally your experience. There's
Right,
I
right.
cannot say that's wrong. That's your experience with it. You could have had a bad crash, and you know I wasn't there to help you with that. And you know that maybe you lost a gig from that.
Right.
That I cannot criticize you for that. I cannot say that's wrong. That's just something that happened.
Right.
Yeah.
And all I can do is try and repair it as best as I can.
I think there's a misconception that like people at our company or on our team are like butthurt if you're not using Serato DJ. Because I've had plenty of people come in the studio and go, before we start, I'm still on Scratch Live.
Right.
Don't kill me. And I'm like, you're still using our product, so
Yeah.
Exactly.
fine for me.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It's funny. Have you guys ever met one? Because I've actually met a lot of my heroes and dudes that I look up to,
Yeah.
and I've been disappointed many times. A lot of DJs and megastar DJs that I've like looked up to. That's why I always question their motives sometimes, because I've always seen them like, yo, those guys are so dope, and then I meet
Yeah.
them and I'm like, wow, what a fucking asshole. Like,
Yeah.
this guy's like the worst fucking dude ever, man. And I was just wondering if you guys ever experienced that, like just meeting these guys and these heroes, and just be like, oh my God, this guy's fucking, I can't believe this.
Yeah, plenty of
Yeah.
times. Not even necessarily in this job, but as an artist, when you travel, you might be doing, like with me, I would be doing gigs with whoever, Bahamadia or by myself or whatever, and you might get to certain countries and you're like, oh shit, this person's on the bill, and then they're like, yo, I don't want you near my dressing room, fuck off. Maybe not that literal, but that's the vibe,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, for me, it's just like all I can do is I can't control how they are. All I can do is control how I respond to it.
Right. And then, honestly, you guys got to continue to help them, because in the end, they're using the product as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is true. But as a company, we tend to want to align with artists that are
Of our
just
same
good
values.
people.
Right.
Yeah, just have our similar values.
And yet you sat down here with us.
No, man. I've been wanting to. I've reached out to you guys. Really wanted you guys to come through, so I'm
Yeah.
glad it worked out. You know?
No. We're actually really happy that we got to stop through and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, and hopefully you guys are going to help us with some Serato DJ Pro
Yes,
stuff.
please.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So we need to.
Well, I'm
we
off
need-
in about
Damn, that's fucked up.
Remember the give and take thing that
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
talking about.
yeah, that was rhetoric. I see.
So much for that. Is there anything we want to touch on? Pause.
I think
Nothing.
I mean,
We're
we
good.
covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we
Yo,
good.
should we wait for Jamie? Oh, fuck Jamie. Anyway, yo, Sonny, you know, Cuts. Thank you so much for having us here, man. We appreciate your time and everything.
Thank you,
Just,
guys.
big shout to Serato for having us over here.
Yeah.
And really, I really love what we talked about. And if there, what's the best way for people to, you know, to kind of troubleshoot and to like, if not reach out to you guys, what is the best way to kind of find tutorials and
Yeah.
you know all of this stuff to help them?
Serato.com has forums. You can also access support inside the program.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, our support team is fucking great. Like
Yeah.
they are really, really fast. They're 24/7. You know, obviously we can't field everyone's calls, so coming to us probably isn't the best solution. But
Right.
you know, our support team will get back to you super quick. They have like all the resources. They're really streamlined, so don't feel afraid to hit them up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you know, if you're in LA and you're you're doing shit, doing cool parties and doing cool shit. You know, we definitely want to find out about who you are.
yeah,
So you know,
Awesome.
holler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'd actually like to keep an active line of communication between us and you guys, so we can, if you guys have any updates or anything that we should know about that, you know, we should talk about or
Definitely.
speak about or address to all these other DJs that listen to us. I would love that, you know, to put that out there.
100%.
Yeah. Sonny James, Kutcorners, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Survivor.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate y'all, man. Thank you, man.
And then you can find this episode on youtube.com/the R.O.A.D podcast. Comment, like, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to get all the videos on Friday. And
And yeah, shout out to DJ City, man. Thank you.
Shout out
Bye, man.
DJ City.
Yeah.
Yes.